I was like, but boy, these sound like death metal lyrics. And boy, was I right.
And boy, are they.
And that's fine.
Right.
I don't care about them, but that's totally fine. Nothing against it.
What I can say that I like about it is I feel like it's very like what you see is what you get, and I don't feel like
exactly.
You know, like even on that live record, like Frank is like, this song's about killing people because that's what I like to do. It's called Thrones of Blood. And
holy shit.
And
Frank, buddy.
So, and I guess like what I like about it is that it feels like it's very like what you see is what you get, and there's not other weird shit laced into it.
Like they didn't do anything bad instead.
Well, like what I mean is, so like a few episodes ago, or I don't know what episode. Episode 33, recorded July 17th, 2022. All right. So, today is a day.
A momentous occasion. It's not. I don't know where you're going with that.
It's just a normal day.
Yeah, it's just a regular ass day.
But, so... Go ahead.
Apparently, I was celebrating something. I don't know what.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll figure it out. But we're gonna do the thing we always do and riff on something, which is usually relates to Pantera in some way, whether one or two or not.
It all comes back.
It all comes back
to Pantera. I did find.
And then we're gonna talk about Suffocation.
Yeah, there you go. Also, he's Richard and I'm Robert.
Dude.
This is a thing that we could do every single time. And we absolutely do not.
Man, as I'm going back and I'm editing these and I'm looking at these and I'm looking at these descriptions of like I, he, we, da da da. I'm like, man, does this say who the guest is? It doesn't. Oh shit, with Robert. You know, I'm trying to, and then I like go and look at how the descriptions look on like a podcast app, and I'm like, this looks stupid, and I'm, it's all learning.
There have been times when I'm like, I need to ask him if I can go fix this because I recognize it and I can go do it myself, and then I just forget.
Take a screenshot, send it to me.
Yeah.
Whenever you see that, take a screenshot, send it to me. It's like, you cool with this? And my answer will be like, for now.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Well, the good thing is you can go back and edit this stuff.
True.
Because the worry with YouTube videos is always like, if you need to take it down and edit the video itself, then you lose whatever like stats you had on it.
Right.
But I think descriptions and meta information is fine.
You can change that. Yeah. That's why I mean, that is, I mean, I know their content ID system is, bullshit and shitty and all that sort of stuff, but I'm glad that it at least scans it and tells you that stuff
before you put it live,
right? So that so that I can okay, well, I don't want to deal with that, so let me see what I can do,
right?
To tweak it. But I was real surprised though, because I had uploaded not publicly but just to share with other people in the big band that I'm in, like just a live performance of us, and like it's just like one of these cameras and a Zoom H2, and I had like 10 flags
from you,
or 10 like copyright flags or whatever,
but from yourself,
from like the band playing, the big band, like, because it would be like, oh, this is My Way by Sinatra. Oh, this is Don't Mean a Thing. Oh, right. This is this, and this is that, because it could pick up on the melody and shit.
Okay, I see.
And I was like, fuck. Wow.
Yeah.
What a fucking mess.
The time, any video I've ever put on YouTube has been like not containing music, typically. And then the one time I tried to upload an entire performance. So during COVID, some bands would do things like they would do virtual concerts.
Right.
And I just like bought access to one and then ended up recording it because I wanted to watch it back later. They didn't offer it for sale. And I was like, I'll try to put this on YouTube so I can like share it with my sister or whatever.
Right.
Because she likes this band too. And I uploaded the entire thing to YouTube and I was going to leave it private. And it was like, nah, dude.
Wouldn't even let you do that.
And it was like wildly different sounding.
Wow.
It was really, it was something. So.
Do other streaming platforms have that intense of a content ID? Do you know?
Twitch does, which is a bit of a different thing. Or like you interact with it differently than you do on YouTube.
Sure.
Because then if you get flagged after the fact, then the audio of your live stream just gets cut out, like a huge chunk of it. Oh. Yeah, they do it like by large chunks.
Right.
But then there's stuff like Vimeo, which has none of that. You can put whatever the fuck you want on Vimeo. Oh. So it's kind of the Wild West still over there to a certain extent.
There's this drummer. I subscribe to his Patreon, and he uploads everything to Vimeo. So I think it's partially. Well, I don't know his reasons, but I wonder if that was a factor in it, because sometimes
probably
he'll do sort of like commentaries, or like he'll want to break down Charlie Parker solos, and
he'll play the song as he's
right.
Yeah, absolutely, because you see that all the time on YouTube where people will not play. They'll play like 5 seconds of a clip,
right,
so that it doesn't get up to the requisite length for content ID to be able to check it.
Oh, is that what it is?
Right,
that you have to stay under a certain length.
Well, there's that, or you just don't play it at all, or you like talk over it or something like that.
Right.
But I think even then it's like kind of dicey.
Yeah,
you might still get cracked for it.
Yeah, there's been a few times in uploads, only twice really in uploads, that it's flagged so far for the podcast where I needed to tweak it,
Yeah.
And it's just whenever we're in like that third hour, and I'm like, listen to this. So now we'll see if it makes a difference. Now that I'm like trying to hold the phone over here away from the microphones so that we can hear it, but it's not picked up. We'll see if it makes a difference.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I can't really remember, but. Yeah, it's the point of the show where it's always like, well, I think we might get flagged. Fuck it, here we go. Yeah.
Well, and like it's not that big a deal now that it's like, all right, at these, because if it just said it's flagged,
yeah.
Oh man, but since it's like, at this, okay, fine, I'll go in there and I'll like pitch it down, or I'll do something,
right,
or whatever.
Put in some stock music over it.
Right, and it does give you the option too, even on YouTube, to just like, do you want to just cut this part out?
Yeah.
Which totally makes sense for this kind of content. Like, because there was one where I like played like I don't know, like 30 seconds of an Outkast song, or Sleepy Brown, because he was rapping about McCoy Tyner, because Andre was on there rapping about McCoy Tyner, and I was like, listen to this. We're talking about jazz. He's talking about McCoy Tyner. And so I like set the phone right here on the table and just let it play for like 30 seconds.
Like an unbroken silence between.
Yeah. And it was like, so I was like, yeah, just cut that out. Cause we weren't talking over it. We just, you know what I mean? I was like, yeah, just take it out. But then there was another one where it was a Pantera song off of Far Beyond Driven. And I'm like, I was like, okay, let me just find some other way to get this done, because I don't want it to just cut this out totally.
Right.
Because it's going to not make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that stuff is like, this is the exact wrong kind of stuff to be talking about and then just throwing up on YouTube if you're going to like need examples.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it's looking for.
Right. So, well, I guess like, a topic of the week, since we're already talking about Pantera a little bit.
Yeah, I had something related to Pantera as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I found just a random YouTube channel of this. I was looking for her name. Kayla Kent is what her name is. It's the name of her channel too.
I probably already follow her. Yep.
Do you really?
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, I just like found that the other night, and it's like all it is. Every single video is her playing like a Pantera solo.
It just killing it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sick. Yeah, I don't even remember how I found that. Watching some other person play music, or some other Pantera thing. Oh no, it was a clip of Dimebag being confused by one of his own riffs. He was like, I thought I wrote it down an E, but it turns out it's an F. And that's really fucked up. Burp, and then the clip's over. That was the whole thing. So I was like, that's good. That's a good clip. And then I found her channel. I was like, I'll watch somebody play Dimebag solos. It's probably pretty good. It's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, it's really
so.
It's hard to. Man, it's really hard to be. I mean, it's hard to be like any kind of creator, blah blah blah, or whatever. But it's really hard, I think, to be a woman or a girl creator, because it's hard to, I think it's really hard to do that and be respected.
It's weird because dudes are shitty. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, I think it's probably hard to be able to command respect.
I think you have to have such thicker skin than, than the average dude needs to have.
1,000%.
And because
you instantly have dudes coming in to your fucking comments and mentions and like, hey, are you single? You're super hot.
Or
regardless of what you're doing or talking about.
Or just feel that they have the right to be maximally critical.
Yes, the exact opposite of that too.
Which is, you'll get if I put out a drum cover or something like that, you know, the worst that's going to happen is that people just like aren't moved by it. You know, they're like, oh yeah, well I've seen lots of people play that song and that seems okay, and they're going to move on. They're not going to feel the need. Like, people are either going to say something positive or they're probably not going to say anything at all.
Yeah.
But if a girl plays the exact same way, you know, then, well, not say exact same way, but it's like, but like a girl has to be, speaking specifically in the sort of like the metal, you know, musician, whatever sphere, you know, they have to just be so legit, and you're still gonna get people that are like, yeah, that's really cool, but you know, watch out for your pinky on how you're holding the stick. Like, they're gonna say that, and then the next clip is gonna be, you know, George Coleus of Nile, like the top of the heap, playing the craziest shit, like has been playing shit that people cannot catch up to for 20 years, you know. I mean, yeah, people have caught up to it, but he has been like at the top of the mountain on like technical death metal drumming for 20 years, and you know, man, you'll see like his pinky drift a little bit, right, or something like that. Like, I'm not saying that it does. I'm not saying, but just like there might be some technical idiosyncrasy, and he's not going to get that scrutiny, but you're going to throw it at someone who like just wants to do a Slipknot cover or something like that. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is a ridiculously high level of scrutiny across the board, more so these days than before, because so many people are out there and so many people, I think, develop this, what's the word? Like they feel like they're an authority on it to some extent, because they know a lot about something, or
right.
They've watched a lot of videos about something, so they feel like they can critique it. So I think generally that's grown. But then if you're a woman, or just maybe even just a minority of any sort,
yeah,
you're under like 10 more microscopes.
Yeah, if you're underrepresented in that, whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're a black dude that's playing death metal drums, people are gonna be like, you know.
Yeah, it brings out the fuckwads out of the woodwork.
It does. You know, but I feel like it's less. That is getting to be less.
Yeah.
Maybe, or maybe it's not getting to be less, but maybe I'm just seeing more positives. Also,
yeah,
like maybe there's just more positives too.
I'd like to think that that's the case, because I kind of feel that way too, because I watch a few different channels where it's just a girl playing something or a woman, you know, talking about whatever, and I feel like I see less intense shittiness, especially after like I don't say after like Gamergate, because that's people are still out there doing that shit, but it's not as pronounced these days. At least not publicly. Privately, it may be just as bad as ever. So I can't speak to that. But
I want to ask you about that.
I feel like overall there is a positive trend. But then I think about the people who I'm watching, and it's like, have you ever seen the girl Too Sick, the Russian girl who does all the death metal covers and shit?
Probably.
It's 2SICH.
Let me see.
Okay. Anyway, she's fucking great, and she gets guests in there to play with her all the time, and she just comes across as super legit, but is also goofy and funny, and I feel like I don't see much in her comments that's too shitty. But maybe there is.
Oh, dude, she's hilarious.
Yeah, she's fucking fantastic.
She is legitimately hilarious.
Yes. Yeah.
That's who I thought you were talking about, but
I assume that's how you pronounce it anyway. I think it's Too Sick.
Yeah.
She's a little Russian girl who just destroys all these death metal songs.
Her video about like trying out different stage routines. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, or like the "What's that sound? Where's that coming from?" thing. Fuck.
She is awesome.
Yeah, her shit's great, and like generally pretty positive. I feel like, although I guess I can't read the Russian comments, so maybe they're shitty. I don't know. And any video, like the things that come to mind are her, and then any video involving Gina Gleason from Baroness, where it's just legions of people going, "You're the fucking greatest. You're a god." Or a goddess, or whatever people are saying.
Right.
But she, like, that's such an outlier, I feel like, because she has attained this, like, level of street cred and, like
sure,
known proficiency or whatever. But you also just don't see many metal bands with a female lead guitarist.
Gina is in the middle of a lot of it, like a really big Venn diagram.
Yes. Yeah. So maybe those examples are representing like outsized positive areas of people, of fans, but
right, because there's not a lot. I don't think there's a lot of women guitar players in rock bands that can go out on stage and play without their shirt on, and it'd be like, oh yeah, she's just an artist, and that's just what she wanted to do, and not be her being criticized for trying to get attention, or that being a this or that being a that, or da da da, and it not be so overtly sexual. Right. But she can get away with that. And I don't know if that's how, you know what I mean? Not that like that's like a shtick, like she doesn't do that every show or anything like that, but it just like, I don't know. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. She like, it's weird. Like she's attained some sort of like almost untouchable weird status. Like people accept her as though she was not a woman. It is the unfortunate way to say it, I think. Because I think that is the case. Like
these things are so difficult to
sadly
talk about. It's like it's without like sounding like a douche nozzle, or sounding like a total jerk.
Well, no, I don't think it's that. I think it's more like, oh boy, I just stumbled across a really disgusting truth that I hadn't really thought about before I said it out loud.
Yeah,
is the way I'm looking at that.
Right. Yeah. And because it's not that it's not that you're like, yeah, man, I respect her the same way I respect men.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
First I was like, you're not a man, but eventually she proved herself
she really brought me back around.
Just as good.
Won me over into the fold. I mean, she's still kind of whatever, but. Yeah.
Well, and also, Baroness is such a unique band, and Baroness has such a unique fan base too, I think. And that has to be a big part of that equation.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of why I'm saying like maybe those examples aren't really fantastic. I don't know.
Right, yeah, like if
shit.
Like if Disturbed or like Five Finger Death Punch got like, you know, hot woman guitarist X, you know, like I don't know. There might be a little. The dynamic might be a little different there.
Yeah. That's Baroness being what they are is certainly, I feel like, plays into that somehow.
Right, and
I don't fully understand the dynamics of how, but there's a weird acceptance there that just kind of happened.
Well, and
people were cool with it.
They already kind of had their wave before, almost their peak, if you will, before she joined, and now they're in their like mid-tier. I don't want to say coasting, but they've found their people, and their people aren't going anywhere.
Right. They're in like a weird rebuilding phase, and have been for like a decade. Weirdly enough.
Well, like I think of, you know, like they were on an ascent all the way up through Yellow and Green, and then after Purple, things sort of leveled out, right?
I don't know, because there was just a 10-year anniversary article on Yellow and Green because it just turned 10.
Fuck.
And so that album came out, and then 2 months later they had the bus crash.
Okay, I didn't realize those were so close together.
Yeah, so like they had just gone on tour for Yellow and Green, and then they all got fucked up, and they weren't the same for like a year.
Right.
So whereas that should have been the thing that like propelled them into the stratosphere, they weren't able to like capitalize it in a certain way.
See.
And then the drummer and bassist left before they did anything else really, and then they started rebuilding for Purple, and they got Sebastian and Nick. And then after Purple, there was like, all right, we kind of know ourselves now. And then Peter left. And then they were like, all right, we need another guitar. And that's when they got Gina.
Okay.
And now they're like, we're going to rebuild again and figure out who we are now. And that's what Golden Gray is.
I see.
And so that's where they are today.
Okay.
So that's why I say they're in this weird, like, constant rebuilding phase for the better part of a decade. And so I think people are like, they don't have solidified expectations, whereas they, maybe after like Red and Blue, they expected one thing. And
right. Or
I don't know.
Well, I mean, and I can also sort of see it as if you're a fan of the band and they go through all that and you stick with them, you know, you're probably a pretty cool person.
I'm a pretty cool person. So I assume that's what you're alluding to.
I don't feel like I've ever ran into any assholes at a Baroness show. I don't know.
I don't think I have.
They don't seem like a.
I'm sure they were there, but
because there's like certain fan bases that like it might just be like split down the middle, like half cool as shit, half toxic as fuck. You know what I mean? Like it just, you know,
yeah, cool as shit, toxic as fuck.
Yeah,
those are the two sides. Yeah,
and Baroness has always like seemed like, I don't know. It just seems like it attracts, you know, people that are more on the cool side, I guess.
I think it does. I think it does generally. Yeah.
You know, so, but yeah, like with the.
So I think it's like a more accepting foundation in the first place.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm sure that plays a part.
Right. And.
But I know that there were people when like Gina was announced or when she first started playing with them, there was absolutely that sentiment here and there where it was like, well, this ain't no fucking Peter, or she's, you know,
right.
Even if it was just critiquing her play style, which that's the kind of thing, like, I feel like people do that all the time for everybody, but I think in that sort of case where she's a woman, she's going to get it more to some extent, even though with Baroness, I think it wasn't as much, which is why I say it's a bad example.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like there's, and like that's the thing is that, yeah, like
But also, I don't know what her fucking DMs look like. Maybe they're fucking complete trash fire.
That's
probably so.
Solid point.
So
solid
who knows?
Point. Yeah, and to be a woman creator, especially in like the metal space, I only say that because that's the space or the drummer that I know the most about.
Right.
I think you have to have such thicker skin, and I didn't really. I'm humbled by it, to be honest, because I do not have as thick of skin as I'd like to think that I have, and just but then you like think about like what, like I'm just going to play drums to a song I like, and I'm going to do it while I wear clothes that I like. And I'm going to have to deal with at least 200 people saying shitty things. God damn it. It's just a total...
and this is what I want to do.
It's just a totally different thing, and a totally different, just it's insane. And I don't know, a really good example I thought about sort of in this topic, along these lines. I think I mentioned it. No, it wasn't actually on the podcast. We were talking about when Harrison came over here. Before we started recording, we were talking about the singer in the band Entheos. Her name is this is her actual. I'm double checking it.
Her name is Entheos Jones.
Because her name is Cheney Crab. And
I don't know that reference.
That's her name. But it sounds,
I didn't know that reference.
It sounds like a made up name.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
I don't remember this conversation either.
Okay. Maybe
it wasn't here yet.
Yeah. Right. And
okay.
She is, an incredible vocalist, an incredible front woman, just kills it on all levels by all measures, and the thing that we were talking about was that it's so much harder because she probably had to always be amazing. Because think about how many shitty metal singers we've seen. And maybe they weren't. Think about us having been shitty metal singers.
Yeah.
And the thing is that you need to have that space and that support to kind of be able to start kind of shitty and then get somewhere, right? And I don't think that's a thing that men are allowed to do. I feel like specifically, like I can sort of say, I don't know, maybe I don't know, but I know that back in the day, if there would have been a girl that was singing, in a metal band, she would have been under a crazy amount of scrutiny. And
yeah, almost certainly. And
if it would have been her first, third, fifth, 10th show, she would have been unfairly criticized. And, and if we would have endured that same amount of criticism, we might have stopped.
Yeah.
And whereas if you're you can go out and be like a really terrible metal vocalist.
A lot of terrible dudes out there.
And if you're a dude,
yeah.
People might be like, well, maybe you'll get it. Maybe he'll get there. And I feel like that's a really, really big difference is women, when they create in these kind of spaces, they have to be unfucking deniable.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like there's some weird, I feel like that's how kind of what I was trying to get at earlier with how generally that's just more, the scrutiny is more of a thing these days.
Mm-hmm.
Because if people are trying to learn, someone's just trying to come up and hone their craft, and they're doing that by making videos and putting it on YouTube for people to see, or just streaming on Twitch or something like that, for anyone to look at, then that just gives, that's not something that we had to deal with, right?
Right.
That puts so many more eyes on it. And so you're automatically going to get, I assume anyway, because this is not something that I've done, but I assume you're going to get much more criticism regardless of who you are.
Sure.
And then if you're a woman, for example, it's going to be tenfold.
Right.
So you have this weird new way of putting your stuff out there and getting feedback and trying to grow yourself and your creativity. And then it's instantly the shittiest possible way to do that.
Yeah.
At the same time. So it's this weird.
Right. The thing that the thing that would bother me that I would see. I don't see it as much now, and it might just be that I'm not like that I've exited those particular drumming spaces.
Those drumming circles.
Yeah, those drumming circles.
Yeah.
Is like just the God, it was just so fucking ignorant and so like someone would post a video of, you know, like Sebastian Lanzer from Obscura or something. Okay, so Obscura is top of the heap of technical death metal. Sebastian Lanzer is one of the best drummers doing it, blah, 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 blah. Okay.
And we're just going to talk about fucking Suffocation. Who cares?
We'll get there. And so, and then someone will like take the time to say, I don't think this is music, but I respect the effort that he put into being able to play this athletic style, but there's no dynamics here, and this isn't expression in music to me. And it's like, why did you fucking take the time to do, you know?
Just a classic question is, man, why did you, like, literally, if you don't have anything nice to say, you don't say anything at all. But why did you chose to click on this and come in and engage with it?
Right, like this is like a drumming group. Like this is all of it is what it's supposed to be. And you know, or like someone put up a clip of like Tony Royster Jr. playing, which this guy has been one of the best drummers in the world since he was fucking 12. Okay? Like Modern Drummer Festival 1997, 12-year-old Tony Royster Jr. right there with all the legends playing an incredible solo. Okay? Because he's one of those guys. Mm-hmm. And then I guess like the past 10 years or maybe more, I don't know, he's been Jay-Z's drummer. You know?
Oh, wow.
Jay-Z's live drummer. Because Jay-Z have literally 80 fucking watts, you know? And so
I think about Jay-Z having a drummer. That's interesting.
Well, I you know,
probably not for everything, but
I don't know, man. It brings different energy to the live show.
Oh yeah, I imagine so.
So, but
interesting
seeing, you know, but here's like a clip of like Tony Royster, and this is the thing, like Tony Royster Jr. He like there's a video of him like when he's like 14 or 15, like I'm like a released, like you pay money to buy this, and it's just a video of him playing drums with Dennis Chambers, which Dennis Chambers is one of like the established, you know, greatest of all time drummers. Okay. You cannot get better credentials than Tony Royster Jr. has. It's literally impossible. Okay. And then here's some asshat talking about like, he's hitting those cymbals too hard. He's not even really a drummer. He's maybe a good cymbal player. Like just, and I'm like, why?
Like not even trying at that point.
And anyway, I was like, it was one of those things that like, you don't realize you're in like this toxic space. And then you just sort of like look around. You're like, wait a minute. All of y'all are assholes. But I feel like I see much less of that, and it might just be that I don't interact with the shitty drumming spaces. But I don't know, man. All the things seem to be gearing much more towards, even in the extreme metal circles and whatnot, being much more open-minded and much more like there's something to gain from all. It's like that's not what I do, and that's not what I'm passionate about, but that's fucking awesome. And that seems to be much more of the default than it was when, you know, 20 years ago or 10 years ago.
5 years ago on some, like,
sure.
I feel like that. I feel like I see the same thing, but I wonder if it is actually any sort of real change or just the way that communities have factioned off at this point. Or maybe both, you know, I don't, but I would like to think that is the case, obviously.
Right. Or maybe the people that are wanting to be petty and hate on things are going to spaces where they can be petty and hate on things.
Yeah, they're all on Trump's social media platforms.
Right.
Hopefully.
Right. They're all over there, and they're not. They're like, it's not as much fun to, you know, to tell people they're holding their sticks wrong. I'd much rather tell women that they're not allowed to, you know, leave the state or whatever.
Yeah, like I've seen that exact thing where like a community realizes that a large part of it is shitty, and they they just pick up their shit and leave and go create another community.
So
it's one example.
Uh-huh.
And then you see sort of the same thing happen there, but maybe it gets better over time. And so I think to some extent, both of those things are happening.
Right.
But,
right.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
All right, we're about 50 minutes in, but because this is like recent news, we have to talk about this like supposed Pantera reunion.
Oh God, right. I came in tonight. I was like, "What the fuck?" I don't remember anything that happened the last week. I don't know what they're going to talk about. And now here we are. And I forget we talked about it yesterday. Well, anyway, yeah. Go ahead.
So, what are your thoughts? So it was announced that there's going to be like like going to be a tour with Phil, Rex, and Zakk Wylde, which everyone has been saying for years anyway, and Charlie Benante from Anthrax. So what do you...
Zakk Wylde from Ozzy Osbourne and Black Label Society fame.
And Zakk Wylde fame.
yeah, I guess so.
Zakk
Wylde's hard drinking pirate dude. I don't know what the fuck he's got going on.
Man, this is how amazing Zakk Wylde is. Zakk Wylde was able to put a group together, call it Zakk Sabbath, and just go out and tour playing Black Sabbath songs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guy's legit. Obviously, of course, he's a legend. He's
Yeah, like the first thing I'll say about this, as far as like what I think about it, is you probably couldn't get any better than Zakk Wylde to do this. Is my thought.
The thing that makes me excited about it being Zakk Wylde is that Zakk Wylde has such a singular voice on the guitar. There's no way that Zakk Wylde won't sound like Zakk Wylde.
Yeah.
So it will feel like a tribute and like a celebration of the legacy. It won't feel like...
As opposed to like, we're trying to do Pantera and we need a replacement.
Yeah.
We need someone to be the dime bag now.
Right. It won't be like what... I haven't seen it. Maybe it's cool. Their ticket sales are doing well, but like what Static X is doing.
Oh, who do they have singing?
I'm pretty sure it's the guy. It's Edsel, from Dope. He's a great singer. He's doing a great job, but he's like dressed up as Wayne Static, like with like a weird mask on and shit. He looks like a zombie Wayne Static going.
What kind of mask? Not like a Wayne Static mask.
No. Not like what Bryan Cranston did at Comic-Con all those years ago. Not like that level.
Okay. I don't actually know what that is, but okay.
No, you know what I'm talking about? So there was like a dude walking around Comic-Con with like a Heisenberg mask on, like all Comic-Con, and then he like walks up on stage during like a like on a Breaking Bad panel, and he takes off his fucking Bryan Cranston, like with a with a mask of himself on,
Heisenberg
from Walter White, Breaking Bad.
But Heisenberg, what does that mean? What does that have to do with anything here? I never saw Breaking Bad.
Okay,
by the way. Well, it's probably important to say. Because I know Walter White is his name in the show, but
he also goes by Heisenberg.
Gotcha.
At some point.
Okay.
And it is.
So what he did is the Sting thing from fucking WCW, when Sting got in the ring with a Sting mask on, and he beats some dude with a baseball bat, and then he rips the Sting mask off, and it's Sting underneath.
Yes, that.
That. Okay. That's the best. Okay.
Which I don't know as much about that.
Well, you do Breaking Bad, I'll do shitty wrestling over here.
Fair enough. Now let me see if I can find a picture of.
Okay, but it wasn't a Wayne Static mask. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
But the hair, that's a weird.
Because
Wayne, that's maybe a bridge too far. I feel like.
Man, this is a garbage quality photo.
That might make it better.
There you go. That. This is this is so fascinating. Yeah, that's enough for you to get the idea.
But why?
Because there's still life in that. There's still life in them there bones, Robert.
Not Wayne Static's bones. His bones are buried.
Yeah.
But no, like, why the mask? Like, do the tour, like, whatever, sing the songs. But why this? Because
I think they were trying to like hide his identity.
I don't know if we can
for a long time.
I have no idea if this is gonna hold up or not. But,
probably not.
They didn't want anybody to know it was him.
That it was.
Isn't
him.
his name Edsel Dope?
That's his. I mean. I doubt that's his birth name.
his Christian name.
Yeah. Oh.
Right.
Oh, he's of the
yes.
he's of the Dallas Dopes.
And Peter begat Dope. Begat Edsel. Named for the Ford Edsel.
But yeah, so if Zakk Wylde is playing Pantera songs, like there's no way you're not getting like a random you're gonna be getting extra
Dimebag,
shit in there.
Yeah, extra squealies, yeah. Like Dimebag did plenty of those, but there's so much footage of Zakk Wylde playing Pantera songs already that you can just look at that and go, well, yeah, he's gonna do great. But
right.
yeah, also he's just been an amazing player for fucking like 40 years now.
Some shit like that,
playing with Ozzy back in the 80s.
And like, yeah. So I think that's really cool. And I've watched footage of Phil doing, like his
with his
like Phil and some of the Illegals doing like vulgar display of Pantera, where they do like all.
They just play vulgar.
No. They just do a whole Pantera set, you know what I mean? And does like shit like he like does like an actual version of Suicide Note Part 1, like doing shit that Pantera never actually did.
Right.
And it's good. It's good. Like he sounds good, Cool. And so I'm sure it'll be awesome. I never would have guessed that it would have been Charlie Benante on drums.
So what do you think about that? How does that hit you?
Well, I'm never gonna doubt Charlie, because that dude is like seriously an underrated legend, and he also like writes almost all the music for Anthrax. Like he's like a top shelf fucking guitar player also.
Damn. I mean, the shit that Anthrax plays isn't that hard. It's more like Scott Ian has the stamina and the fortitude of 10 bulldozers who can't be stopped. That man has never played an upstroke in his life.
What? Oh,
you can go no down forever. His arm just goes all the way around.
Yeah,
downstrokes.
So because Vinny has like a very very like unique. To me, Vinny has like a very very unique feel, and
totally
but this thing, I don't know, like the Charlie Benante stuff I'm most familiar with is a lot of the like the 90s, like, or it's like some of the early 90s, some of the early 2000s Anthrax stuff, which is like, it's amazing, but it's straight down the middle. Like it's just right on top of the beat, just straight down.
Yeah.
And then the Stormtroopers of Death stuff.
He did that too. Okay.
Right. Which is like more like pushing, but still, like, I don't know, man. Like Charlie always seemed like very like on the beat. Do you know what I mean? Like not ahead, not behind, like boom, like just like a machine.
Yeah, like I think the only album the album I'm most familiar with him is Persistence of Time, which was 1990, I think, or
maybe?
91 maybe. But I listened to that album a bunch, and that is just a very like meat and potatoes the whole way through.
Right, like
it's good, but yeah.
Right, whereas like Vinny has all these pushes and these pulls and like we've talked about before, is Vinny's feel. He's more like he's like the John Bonham of thrash drumming,
right.
or of metal drumming, where and a lot of his tools are a lot closer to being John Bonham. Like he's a lot closer to John Bonham than he is to Dave Lombardo. And like Vinny was already a really amazing drummer before double bass was a thing. That's sort of the vibe. Like that's why he leads with his left foot, because he didn't learn on a double bass kit. He learned, and you had your hi-hat, and you always kept your hi-hat foot going. You know what I mean? And so whenever you got double kick, he's like, just took that foot off of the hi-hat and put it onto the bass drum, Same with Gene Hoglan. Gene Hoglan plays left foot lead on double bass also. So, and Vinny comes out of like that different generation, where he grew up listening to like Tommy Aldridge and shit like that. Like, and so I don't know, man. I don't know. But again, I don't know, man. If they fucking like they didn't decide this without getting in the room together and seeing how it felt. And
exactly.
If they decided that it was the right thing to do, because that's the other thing, is that like Charlie's I don't know, man. Maybe Charlie can absolutely do all that, and it just didn't make sense to do it in Anthrax.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, maybe fucking Charlie Benante could do a better Tommy Aldridge than anyone fucking alive. You know? Like, he just doesn't like David Coverdale and doesn't want to be in Whitesnake. I don't know.
Who can blame him? Who can blame him?
So
okay, that's kind of what I wanted to know. Was like, did you know if he had any like? Does he play Pantera cover songs or some shit?
I don't know.
In his spare time.
I know that the Anthrax and Pantera guys were tight and have been tight since like before Cowboys from Hell.
Yeah, because they came up around the same time as like Pantera isn't considered to be one of the big four bands from that time.
But they're the same age as those guys.
They may as well have been.
That's what's there. And that's it. We talked about that on the Machine Head episode. Well, it's like that's what's so strange, or I think that is like really strange, is that like James Hetfield and Phil Anselmo and Rob Flynn are like that seems like that's 3 different generations.
Yeah.
But those dudes are like Phil and Rob are the same age or really close, and like James is like 3 years older than them or some shit like that. Like they're but Metallica was like fucking big screaming dick famous when they were like 19. They're 20, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And
they seem worlds apart.
Right.
For yeah.
And so, like, I don't know, man. Maybe it makes a lot of sense, Maybe to me, like if you were like to ask me to like figure out how to do, like, who do you get to play drums? Like to me, the only answer is Dave McClain.
Okay.
Because there's no one I've ever heard play with as much sort of alternating between as much sort of, intensity and like breath and groove in their playing. It's different because no one plays like Vinny, but but Dave is kind of cut from the same cloth, but yeah, I mean, I'll go see it,
Yeah, I want to hear it. Especially because that was kind of my main. Like, I know Zach can play all this shit. I know Charlie's a good drummer. Rex is gonna do Rex. He's still there. He's still got his shit going on. But Phil was kind of the only thing, because I haven't heard much of what he's done in a long time, and I don't know.
It sounds better than you think it would.
Interesting.
Like, because that's the thing too is, man, Phil in his prime when we were seeing him was still kind of hit or miss.
Exactly. That's kind of exactly.
Like from like 96 on, Phil was sometimes hit or miss.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
I think he's pretty, like, I don't fuck. I don't even want to say that. But the footage I've seen, ask me what I was going to say later. The footage I've seen looks really, really good. I was impressed.
Cool.
Of Phil live.
Right.
Like, it's even doing the Pantera stuff, so I don't know, man. It seems like he really kind of like turned a corner after the whole like Dime Bash racism outing kind of thing, so
hopefully,
which, good on him, man. Like,
hopefully.
So, because that shit, I'm sure he felt that in his fucking pocketbooks, because Down got canceled off of a bunch of festivals and shit like that. Like, that bullshit affected lots of people's lives, as it should have.
Yeah.
But this is prime time for reflection, so
yeah.
And even if it's just like, oh well, maybe I'm not gonna drink so much. Like, maybe it wasn't even this, oh, I have racist views I'm not addressing. Maybe it was just like, I'm not gonna fucking drink as much, and then that makes his performances better.
Right.
I don't know.
Who can say?
I don't know. I'm not hanging out with the guy. Okay, God, will you call yourself a podcaster? You're not even friends with Phil Anselmo?
I just don't feel qualified to talk about him unless I'm hanging out with him every single night.
Yeah. This podcast is now all about my wife. That's the only person I'm qualified to talk about.
Son, no. Wife. That's the draw the line.
That's it.
She knows Phil Anselmo. He was in the he was in the ICU today. Drinks a liter of rum 3 times a week. That one's for you, Allison.
Oh man, I would bet a testicle that she's never gonna hear that. Satan's got me. Hold on, let me check. By the left testicle. Sorry, that's a deep cut into some Phil Anselmo jokes.
We might get back to that one of these days. Who can say?
I want to. We'll see what happens.
Jet.
Yeah, man.
He also won't hear this.
He also won't hear this. Yeah. He did tell me at one point after like he listened to the first show, he's like, yeah, I don't feel the need to call you and talk to you as much. He's like, I feel like I
get my weekly fill of Richard.
Yeah, I got my.
Oh shit.
I'm like, oh man.
So you hadn't heard from him in like 2 months now.
That's a funny thought, right? I'm like, oh no, this is just perpetuating my loneliness.
Yeah, I've supplemented myself in all my friendships. Yes. Oh no.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, we get to hang out with Robert more, which is cool, but literally no one else.
Fuck. What does that say about me? Because I've listened to all these episodes.
I think you're just used to me by now. I'm part of your mental furniture.
Yeah.
Like you just accept it. You're like, well, like it. Is that even really a relevant question?
Yeah. Does that even matter here? See, what I'm not used to is myself. I'm just trying to get,
is that weird to hear yourself talk?
For as much as I talk to myself anyway, I'm not used to. I'm not used to me in that little box talking to myself.
Has that been weird to get used to?
Nah,
not that much. Yeah,
it's just.
I feel like if you get used to recording yourself on anything, like if you're like, oh yeah, man, that's how I sound on the guitar, that's how I sound on the drums, that's how I sound singing. Like once you get past that in anything, I feel like the rest of it it's all the same.
Yeah. Not even from the very beginning, I wasn't like self-conscious. I was more just like interested. I was like,
because I'm fascinating.
Because who could be more interesting?
Yeah.
Than the one person I can't experience from a third person? No.
All right, but yeah, Pantera reunion. Reunion.
I did not expect that to be the case. Apparently, that news had been brewing recently.
I mean, I wasn't expecting it either.
That was the idea I got from that article that you sent, was like there had been rumblings recently, but maybe it was just the day before.
People have been talking about it for like a cool ass fucking decade.
Okay, well,
of like this idea. I mean, before Vinny died, like people were like, get Zach in there and do Pantera, fucking say you're sorry to Phil, do Pantera. Like people have been saying that for a long time. I never got wind of anything that made me think, oh, this is imminent, or this is like actually a possibility.
Yeah.
And first the news broke just that it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a rumor it was going to be Zach and Charlie, and then that was confirmed. And that all happened within like 24 hours or something like that. So
yeah.
But I mean, it's cool. Like I mean, I think it's.
Do you think it's like? Do you feel apprehension about it? Like, do you think it's in poor taste somehow or something like that?
Absolutely not.
Okay. I don't either.
I don't, because this is the thing. Like people want to see that. Like people want to see, people want to see Phil and Rex together doing Pantera songs.
Yeah.
And people want to see, and if you get other big names in there and you make a big event out of it, and you have an excuse to do like a full-blown Pantera stage show too, like people want to see that. And you're not like you're not like selling them something they're not gonna get. Like it's gonna be a celebration of Dime and of Vinny and of Pantera's music, because Pantera's music is important as fuck and it's relevant, and people want to see it, and if you're not doing it, you're leaving money on the table. So there's no harm in it. I mean, fuck, dude, Glenn Frey died, and like with I don't even know, man. Maybe within the year, the Eagles were out on the road with Vince Gill. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. I might be mistaken on this, but I really don't think I am. I remember they had Glenn Frey's son. I remember they had both. But the point is it's like the Eagles lost Glenn fucking Frey and like got back to work like in the same fiscal quarter.
Right. Like we gotta hit those numbers, boys.
You know, fucking Don Henley, man.
Into Q2 coming up.
Yeah. Henley wasn't gonna have it.
Right.
You fucking die on my watch, Glenn. You know what you need to do? You need to get over it.
There it is. There it is.
I'm going to kick your inner child's ass that's dying of liver cancer. Or I don't know if that's what Glenn Frey died of, but...
Well, no, this was inner child died of, I think. Fuck, man. Weird.
So yeah, like, it's...
Yeah, like, I literally saw on a forum that I read, somebody posted the question the other day, like, who was your favorite of the big four metal bands from the 90s? So it was Anthrax, Slayer, Megadeth, Metallica. And it was like, you could pick one of those four, or you could pick other, and like talk about who you liked or whatever. And like half the posts in there were like, what's Pantera? You didn't say Pantera, but the answer is Pantera.
Fascinating.
Because I thought about it for a while. I was like, probably like if I had to choose like Megadeth, because like Rust in Peace is really great. Because this is only the 90s also.
Why are you talking about the big four during the 90s?
I don't know. That was the question they postulated. And I was like, I don't know. It was just a thing to talk about. Because none of it's great. Like there's no good. That's the correct response.
I've never been more good because the term the big four is only relevant
across both decades, really.
No, it is only relevant in the 80s. It is only relevant up to the Clash of the Titans tour that happened in, I believe, 1991, 92.
Okay. I guess that makes sense.
When you had Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax, supposed to be Death Angel opening up for it, but they had to back out the last minute, and you had Alice in Chains opening up on that tour.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Wild, right? And that is like the bookend death of thrash metal.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Like that, you know what I mean? Like the big four doesn't mean anything post Black Album, post Vulgar Display of Power, post Anthrax lineup change, post euthanasia of, with Megadeth.
Would be a countdown to extinction, which is 92.
Fair enough.
So, but yeah,
the lines, but like by the time you get to like 1995, 94, Big Four doesn't mean anything. Yeah,
that's true.
Like Anthrax supported Pantera on tour in 97, 98. One of the times that I saw them, in 90, around that, Slayer is playing like fucking is playing clubs.
Yeah.
Man, like Megadeth actually like broke up and like went on a hiatus or something, like in between, like I think like 97 or something, or I don't
between like Cryptic Writings and Risk.
I think
maybe.
I think
maybe
because there was some break, because that's the reason we didn't see them live, because they like weren't touring during that time period, like during like that really sort of influential window of when
when Cryptic Writings came out, and we listened to it like idiots the whole time,
because it's an amazing record.
It's a good record. Yeah.
What is that? That's all. What is the song? Is it She Wolf that like that outro is like the best Iron Maiden song ever written?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had that part stuck in my head for years, and I would like exhaustively go through trying to figure out what Iron Maiden song it was.
I've gone through their whole catalog, all 300 albums.
It's like I only know 10 Iron Maiden songs, but I listened to all of it anyway.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point about the timing of that.
Stupid question.
I think it's just a way to reference those four bands.
Yeah.
But why would you?
Why would you? Like, because if you're talking about 90s, why you have to, like, if you're talking about like heavy music in the 90s, sure.
You're talking about Pantera is what you're talking about.
Yeah. Or or White Zombie. You got to talk about like what White Zombie was doing. You got to talk about Nine Inch Nails, heavy music, Marilyn Manson. Like,
yeah. Man, somebody, so A new Beavis and Butthead movie came out the other day.
It's out already?
It's on Paramount Plus, I think.
Oh, sure enough. Sure enough.
Yeah, I think it came out a month ago. And then the other day, a trailer for their new series also dropped. And it's all like Mike Judge is doing it all. And by all accounts, the movie's great. And the stuff for the new series I saw, and I was like, I'm going to watch that.
Oh, nice.
But it made me like watch a couple of retrospective videos on Beavis and Butthead and just like see people talk about it. And it really made me realize just how huge that show was in the 90s. Because that's not something I ever really considered. It was just something that I watched throughout the 90s and loved. And it also made me realize how much... I think when we were talking about like the first couple episodes of this, the playlists that we came up with, songs from around those times, I don't remember if I referenced Beavis and Butthead. I know I referenced MTV, but to think about how many bands I actually saw from that show,
right,
and the fact that like Rob Zombie credits them with like kickstarting their career,
right,
is just so wild to think about.
It is.
I say them and Mike Judge, but
yeah, well, because I remember buying because I didn't have MTV. I bought a few Beavis and Butthead VHSs.
Yeah.
Of them like working at the burger joint and shit like that. But no, man, like people would still reference like they were a big reason that Morbid Angel became
also them,
the best-selling death metal band maybe in history still. Because they like talked about the, I Am the Slime video or whatever off of Domination, so yeah, huge cultural force, Beavis and Butthead. And because it always felt fringe too. So you always felt like you were
I always felt like I was like watching something I shouldn't be watching.
Right. Like you're getting the real shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like you and like fucking 30 million other fucking kids that are exactly your age.
But there was no like, I couldn't go online and see what people were talking about it at the time.
Right. Oh God, everyone likes this show, man. Maybe I shouldn't. Yeah.
So just weird to think about how huge of a cultural impact it had. And you just never realized it.
Just like the idea of like being in junior high and going with like your friend's mom to see the Beavis and Butthead Do America movie. And like being there in the theater, in a fucking theater, like a nationally released film,
right?
With a soundtrack that has like everyone on it, and you're like, I don't know if anyone knows about this.
The theater's full. How did they all know to come and see this amazing underground art?
Right.
So, yeah, that was just something I came across and had that realization the other day. It was like, this was actually so fucking huge. But man, that show was so good. That was a really good show.
Mostly what I know about is the movie, because I only had the few episodes that I watched on that one VHS that I bought.
Oh, so you've never like gone back and...
Yeah.
I guess for a long time there wasn't a great way to do that.
Right.
But I guess what that also means is that you never actually saw the show with the videos, which was a huge part of it.
I don't think I did.
Yeah.
I don't think that was on the VHS, that I bought.
No, because that was the thing with the re-releases on VHS, DVDs later on for maybe up till present day, because the reason they were able to use all those videos because MTV had the license to them.
Yeah.
So you could just throw them in there wherever you want. It's the same with shows like The State and stuff like that.
Okay.
They use a lot of licensed music too. But so when they put that stuff out on DVD, they didn't have the licensing to it anymore. So what you got was like a couple of the videos that the bands like allowed it or whatever it was. Or you just got nothing. You just got the episode, which was like the narrative beats of the episode.
Right.
With those parts just stitched right together.
Right.
And it was very weird in that way.
But because so much of that show's appeal was them as proxy watching those videos.
Yeah, because like the episodes themselves, they had a storyline and they were always funny and sometimes like weirdly insightful or whatever. Usually they were just being stupid idiots, but there was always self-deprecating, or like by and large.
Right.
But yeah, one of the main draws was watching them watch videos where they fucking invented reaction channels.
Exactly. Yeah.
Before, 20 years before that happened.
Yeah, that one of the things I remember the most though is what was his name? The proto Hank Hill.
Tom Anderson.
There it is.
Like their neighbor, yeah.
I almost said Tom Arnold. I was like, that's different.
Close.
You boys better not be jerking off my tool shed.
You boys jerking off in my tool shed? Yeah.
That was like the big thing. That was like my biggest takeaway that I had from that VHS.
Was just that character was in there?
Right.
And then he's on King of the Hill?
Yeah, and I was like, what? What? So
Totally.
Oh, rad. Beavis and Butthead.
Yep.
Metal.
Good shit.
So I'm going to grab a beer.
Grab it.
Would you like one?
Yeah, throw me one.
Quack!
But yes, I'm looking forward to that new series and that movie. I haven't watched the movie yet. But cool. It seems like it's quite good.
All right, I'm gonna let. Oh no. I don't know how to use those bottle openers. I always forget. so I let you do it first.
Try this one and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
You can make it work. It is a little. You gotta like get the teeth in there just right.
Man.
And I know.
There we go.
Okay.
I'm a man of precision.
Real man of what was it?
Real men of genius.
Somebody brought that up the other day, and do you remember that it was initially Real American Heroes?
Mm-hmm.
Before they changed it. I think they changed it after 9/11 is what it was.
Oh, okay.
Is the reasoning for that?
Dude, I've never looked more forward to any commercials in my life than those commercials.
Really?
Oh, dude, I loved hearing it when I, during that time period. I was like, oh, what a new one,
They were funny, yeah.
Like they were so well thought out.
But apparently they had gone on. They went on for like a decade. I didn't realize they went. Because there was enough time for them to get to that point and be changed and keep going.
I see.
So
I see.
Anyway.
Yeah, real men of genius.
Weird to think about that.
All right, so we're at an hour and 20 something. So I guess we should.
Yeah, we probably ought to get out of here then. Right.
So so Suffocation's really good.
Yeah.
Their music's great. I don't know what else to say.
They've got some albums. Hit them now. Right in stores now.
Yeah. So that's about it. All right. So we're gonna talk about Suffocation a little bit. So.
Oh man, this looks like a fucking independent local band from the 90s. This whole thing going on here. I like this a lot.
So there's a funny story behind
Actually, they all kind of do. This pretty good.
Yeah, there's a funny story behind that album in particular. So we're talking about Suffocation today.
Ooh, I didn't come prepared for this. Damn.
I just wanted that moment.
Did you wait? These aren't all wrapped. I was like, did you just go buy these for that for that effect? Okay. I wouldn't have.
I bought this one a few weeks ago.
I wouldn't have knocked you if you did.
But yeah, so I am quite the fan of Suffocation, and so I'm just gonna leave some of these out, some of the big ones.
You're what would you be if a Taylor Swifties or Swifties? What's a Suffocation? A Suffy?
I think we're the incredulous.
A suffix.
Right. So Suffocation is I don't know, man. Fucking Google. End of episode.
They're fucking great. Google mic drop.
Done. Yeah. So they've become in the past like 5 or 6 years become one of my like tip top favorite bands.
Yeah.
But their music is really intense and really fucking obtuse. And so
in what way would you say? If you had to just describe it kind of high level.
What do you mean?
In what way is it obtuse?
Oh, because there's like no fucking hooks, not very many things repeat. It's really technical, but it's technical in a really weird fucking way. So it's music that's not easy to get your head around. If you see it live, which I was lucky enough that was my first introduction to them.
Oh, okay.
Was seeing them live, and Suffocation live is a different is a really special thing. And so,
did you see them with somebody, or did you see them just?
They were on the Summer Slaughter tour in 2016.
Okay.
And so they were playing like they play a 30-minute set.
Right.
You know, and I was just floored, you know, because for whatever reason, you know, things we've talked about before, things that I talked about in that death metal episode, I never got exposed to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then anyway, I just kept digging and digging and digging and digging and digging, and I'm still digging.
Still peeling back the layers of that onion.
Yeah. Like, I feel like I'm still digging into this album even. Like, just this one. So, for that reason, I didn't want to, you know... I knew at some point I wanted to do, like, all right, let's introduce Suffocation to Robert, but I didn't want to, you know, like, I can't give you, like, 3 Suffocation albums to fucking listen to, or even 2. Like, I was like, I'm just going to give him, like... 7 or 8 songs.
And honestly, you had primed me for this with the death metal playlist.
It's mostly the same stuff.
Because half of that was on here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Verbatim. So I had at least experienced it at one point.
Right.
But to your point about it being obtuse, I think that death metal, and maybe specifically technical death metal, is all very obtuse, and just kind of hear it as shit's just happening all the time, all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, everywhere, all at once. Like, there you go. And sort of like you said, it's hard to get into. It's hard to get your mind around like what all is happening, because there is a lot of stuff happening, deceptively so. Because whenever I listen to some of this stuff. And even like when I put this playlist on, whenever I put this playlist on for the second time even, or the third time, I still hear these things, and one of my gut reactions is like, I could fucking write that. It's not that hard. What he's doing is not that hard. I could fucking write that.
You're wrong.
So that's kind of my point. I don't think I'm completely wrong, but I understand much better now what you're getting at with that.
So,
like, I am able to discern things that I wasn't able to initially.
So when you say, I gotta figure out what program to put my notes in, because I think I know what you mean when you say,
yeah,
I could write that, because what makes their music. So this is going to kind of skip around in my notes a little bit, but whatever. Because I sort of like touched on something when I went back and listened to this. Like, I don't even need to really... I have most of these songs transcribed. I forgot to bring my binder out here. Of like my handwritten transcriptions of...
Your tome.
Most of these songs. But I went back and was listening to them, and something kind of hit me when I was listening to Breeding the Spawn. So, like, in Breeding the Spawn, like, the second movement of that song,
yeah,
I guess you could call it that, is like this, it's like a minute and a half or like 2 minutes long, and it's just, it's what would normally be some epic-ass fucking outro. Is normally what that section of that kind of song would be. I'll refresh your memory. And so, like, you know, it's got the intro with all the triplet double bass, all the extra beats.
You're talking about when it gets to the halftime part?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
which is like the next third of the song.
Right. Like this.
Yeah.
That would normally be like an outro, you know? But then they do that for like a minute and a half, and then they go right back to fucking thrashing it out. And then there's a solo, and then there's some other shit, and da-da-da-da-da-da, you know?
Yeah.
And that kind of epitomizes what is so amazing about them, right? Hear me out.
Yeah.
is...
That's what I'm here for.
Okay. Like, this is what I wrote. I was like, the second movement of this song is an epic ass outro, and then it goes right back to thrashing. Who the fuck does that? Like, seriously, who has the confidence to get out of that mess of an arrangement like that?
Right.
And that's actually one of the things that makes this band so special. With arrangements as complex as their arrangements are, you should be losing momentum all the fucking time.
Yes.
And that never happens. And that's the real magic to what they do. Because normally, if you threw in, I'll just do measure of 5 there, because I like the way that sounds. A song should fucking fall apart. Especially something that feels as like visceral as their music does, you know, because this isn't Dream Theater, where you're like, and you're like, oh, isn't that neat? Like that's not what this is. You don't need to know fucking anything about you don't need to know how to count to any number. You don't need to know how to count to 4, you know, whatever, to be able to enjoy this music if you like that feeling, you know? And that's, to me, they're similar to like Meshuggah in that way, that they're immensely... Hey, fella.
Oh, no. Well, he's everywhere now.
All the time. Everywhere all the time. But yeah, like, so it's both...
I can see that parallel for sure.
Because it's both very cerebral and very, very visceral simultaneously. And that combination, to me, creates like almost like a psychedelic experience, if you will. So... But yeah, I'm trying to think of the best way to get into this.
So
yeah,
I mean, I've got like notes track by track, but I sort of a couple of overall things, and one is maybe we can just dive into that.
Yeah,
what you just got done talking about there, like that psychedelic effect,
which is difficult to get from like a hodgepodge playlist.
Okay,
you know,
yeah, because I definitely did not get that. I think I see what you're getting at with that.
Yeah.
And I see how you can take that from it, or how that can affect you that way,
mm-hmm.
right? Most of the stuff on here is like, I have good shit to say about this, about all this stuff. The one thing that I like very pointedly don't have anything good to say about is the vocals. And that plays into this.
I have a perspective on that might change your perspective. Or I have an idea about that.
Okay.
Let me find it. Let's see. In my some rando things that make Suffocation feel so special.
Yeah.
All right.
Because this is in your notes that you gave me, right?
This isn't. No.
There's other stuff you did?
Extra.
Okay.
Extra shit.
Gotcha.
Okay. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna kind of run through this real quick.
Okay.
All this stuff. And then we'll do others. Okay, so some random things that make Suffocation feel so special, and then just if it's relevant, then piggyback on this shit. Okay, they're an amazing live band. No click tracks, no backing tracks, just tight as hell, organic, and perfectly fucking executed. It's all in the songs. It's all in the notes. It's all in the compositions. And for them to pull that off that way, you know, playing 70 minutes of extreme, brutal death metal and it working in a live setting, even if you're a fan of the fucking genre, like Slipknot fucking barely plays an hour. You know what I mean? Because that thing is an exhausting. I mean, even something that, you know, Slipknot incredibly dynamic compared to Suffocation, but so even in you zoom into this sliver of this thing, like to do that for an hour,
yeah,
and it work. The only other bands I've seen do that in that genre is really Nile, and there's some bands that I love these bands, but I don't feel like it worked when they did a big hour-long headline show. I'm not going to say what band it is. You can ask me later, because I don't want to talk shit.
Fair.
But then what else is fascinating to consider is, but the way that Nile does it is completely different. Okay, like their whole thing is completely different.
Live shows.
Well, just their music. Their music is inherently so much more epic and dynamic and has so many more voices and layers of melodies. And they also have, samplers that they're playing. They play along to a click track. And check this shit out. George is playing along to pre-recorded guitar tracks. Yes.
Whoa.
Yes, the drummer hears pre-recorded guitar tracks.
But because they're playing to a click track, it all lines up.
And that's what he's playing with. And then
the
guitarists are playing to the click track and that.
Wait, are they playing to... Is everybody playing to the pre-recorded guitar tracks?
I don't know that. But what I do know is that Archspire does something similar where... But I think what they hear is the I think in Archspire, they do hear like the pre-recorded drum tracks. So everyone is listening to this ideal thing of perfection, and they're all shooting towards the same thing, right? But they're not like really listening to each other, because it's like, well, if the drummer, if I fuck up on the drums, that's not what I want them to hear. I want them to hear what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Which is so crazy to me to think about it being done that way.
Like, on the one hand, I can see that, because what you've done is you've created like a set of almost like fail safes in a way.
Yeah.
Right? Because you've got your drummer listening to the ideal thing, and as long as he is on, if he's doing that, he's going to be on.
Mm-hmm.
That means everybody listening to him is going to be on, and it like builds up the chain, But if the guitarists are also listening to a click track, that increases the chances that they're going to be on. That's a weird fucking thing.
It's so different than how we thought about heavy music, of like making noise at each other in the garage. Like we didn't even sing into microphones.
Yeah. True.
Like
but
when we rehearsed,
Yeah. I guess it doesn't matter. It's weird that they listen to pre-recorded guitar tracks and not the guitarists playing the same thing.
Blew my fucking mind, right?
Yeah.
And Suffocation does not do that, right? And so they get the same effect.
Yeah, so you have one live track on here.
Yeah.
Which is Breeding the Spawn, but you also have the studio version of that on here. And yeah, like my basic takeaway from the live track is like, holy fucking shit. Like, so I didn't look at any of your notes before this.
Okay.
Because you gave me like the Word document of all your stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't look at that. I wanted to take my own notes, and then I come back later and look.
Okay.
And it turns out we just had a lot of overlap.
Oh, that's good.
Really. Because I was like, oh, I thought this. Oh, he said this there. Okay, cool. Because I was basically like, this is like some of the tightest shit I've ever heard. Like the live version of the song is like leagues beyond the album version for me. It's so much fucking cooler.
Yeah. I mean, they're recorded like 15 years apart.
Right.
And
the quality of the studio one is kind of shit, relatively.
Yeah, relatively. And I part of me wanted to only put the live versions.
I'm glad you didn't.
Because the reason I didn't is because I don't think the vocals sound good as good on the live versions. The music is amazing, and the vocalists sound amazing live.
Yeah,
but I mean, you're trying to track. You try tracking vocals on like someone fucking like cupping a fucking 58, but belting down that thing so that it sounds good out of fucking PA speakers in a venue. It's not a great way to capture those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you just lose a lot of the enunciation. I feel like you lose a lot of the power of the vocals and whatnot.
I would argue there's not much enunciation in the first place, really.
We'll get there.
As I fail to enunciate the word enunciation.
Come on, Frank.
But like they're so fucking tight, dude.
It's stupid, isn't it?
It's insane. It sounds so good.
It's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And that's just those dudes. And this is the thing. So like
so
the lineup,
no click track again. To specify. Like they're so on the whole time.
And so like the only original member, well, on that live recording, the original members are the guitarist Terrence Hobbs and the singer Frank Mullen. That's
who is like leaving after this show.
Right. Yeah. So that's those two guys.
Okay.
On the back of Effigy of the Forgotten, right? Mm-hmm. And so on bass, you have Derek Boyer, who's been in the band for a long fucking time. I want to say for like 15 plus years or something. And then you have Charlie. I've never said his last name out loud. I don't know how to say it.
Ignatius.
Ergio? Oh God, I'm so sorry, Charlie.
Sorry, Charlie.
And so he joined the band, I don't know, like 6 or 7 years ago, and then Eric Morati, which joined in 2016. So like but Charlie and Eric are like our age or a little younger. You know what I mean? Like they're young blood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? And so, but yeah, like, God damn it. They're so fucking good live. And that's a big thing that I think like drew me to the bit, because that was what I saw them live and it like changed my life. Them doing like 30 minutes, you know, and I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know that this music could actually sound this good live. This shit's possible. Let me start practicing this shit again. It was this huge, incredibly inspirational for me, and I got way back into it. Blah 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 blah. So yeah, incredible fucking live band. I'm
Yeah, absolutely. Like undeniably. That version of that song is so much cooler.
It is.
If only for the drumming changes, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the thing where I was like, oh, this is way fucking cooler.
It's so
because
oh
like
God.
He's doing it at sort of like, do you know what BPMs the album version is running? Because it's constant.
It's about the same. It's about the same BPM.
It's not. It's definitely not. It's in between these two. Because on the live one, he goes a good deal slower, and then he goes like double time.
No. So
yeah, definitely.
Hold on. What's happening is he's going on the album version. It's just sextuplets on the double bass. Okay, like
okay.
Gong, 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 gong. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And then on the live version, Eric, because he's a goddamn machine, he switches between doing the sextuplets and doing 30-second notes.
The sextuplets sound slower to me, like substantially, like noticeably, to the point where I was noticing it as not a drummer.
Maybe, so, I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it does pull a little bit. Okay. I've never noticed
I'll take that.
Like maybe they dig in a little more to it. I've never noticed it.
Okay. Like, because I heard that and I was like, man, that sounds way slower. And then he sped up. And then I went back and listened to the album version. And I was like, yeah, that's like in between. But maybe it's not that big of a difference.
Hold on. Okay.
Live science right here, folks.
Yeah, right. Live science.
Love it.
That's pretty close.
Something about this sounds very different to me.
Oh yeah, because he's doing 30-second notes on the double bass instead of sextuplets.
Well, maybe we can deal with this later. But he double times to the 30 seconds, right? He starts off doing it.
It starts off sextuplets,
and then he double times it.
It's not double though.
Okay.
It's not double.
Okay.
It's 3 halves or whatever.
Fair enough.
You know.
Okay. I guess I'm using that terminology very loosely.
Maybe that's what it is. Like, because when you say doublet, I'm.
Keep in mind, I don't quite know what I'm talking about. So let's roll with that.
Yeah. Like it's suck on this. let's see here. Yeah, so it's around 120-ish or so. Maybe a little slower, you know, but like
maybe the
gung 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 gung, right? And so like and then he doubles that, you know, and from
let's listen to this after, because I
okay.
actually want to it, like, anyway, it's really cool.
All right. Yeah. We're
I should have thought about this a bit more beforehand, because this was like a point that I wanted to bring up. I was like, this is really neat, and it makes the live version to me like way fucking
it's so
cooler.
much better. There are so many things where I could like, okay, here, listen to the studio version, and this is this amazingly composed song. Okay, now listen to how Eric plays it live, and how this makes it 10 times cooler.
Gotcha.
Here's how Doug Bohn played it. You know, here's how Doug played it when he tracked the album. Here's how Mike Smith played it when he rejoined the band and played it live. And then here's how Eric plays it. I can give you like several examples of that, you know.
All these times when Eric won up to previous drummers.
Yeah, basically, yes.
Damn. Understandable.
So yeah. Fuck.
Well, so we sort of got there by I kind of wanted to go into the vocals a little bit, and you had.
I'm gonna get there.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna get there.
Go for it. Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Like, okay, hold on. I'm gonna riff on them on their live stuff just a little bit more. Okay, I am stupefied by how good they are live and how unique the experience of seeing them live is. It's like an LSD trip made of sledgehammers.
Oh,
and
good.
You know, and I've seen I like the first time I saw them was in 2016. I've seen them live 5 times since then. Okay, like
damn near once a year.
That's including a 2-year pandemic.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, I saw them a few weeks ago, and when the show was over, I was sad. Like, I was sad in my fucking bones, because I was like, I don't get to feel this thing anymore. Like, I have to wait to feel this thing, and I can only feel this thing here, only with this band. And it made me deeply, deeply sad.
It's nothing worse than a sad metal boy.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, let's talk about the vocals. Okay. So the vocals.
And also just kind of the lyrics. I kind of want to just roll all that in a little bit.
Yeah. I don't,
because I had some questions about. Okay, well, that'll probably answer some of my questions then.
Okay, I don't pay too much attention to the lyrics.
Okay.
I mean, like, I read over them here and there, you know what I mean? But I'm excited to hear what you have to say. So here's the thing about the vocals. Okay, the first thing to understand about the vocals is, and really about Suffocation in general, is to really get them, I feel you have to put them into context of what else was happening in 1991 when this record came out. When Effigy of the Forgotten came out. And so at that time, and like, look at them on the back of this fucking record, they are children.
Oh yeah, they're like the tiniest, scrawniest little teenagers.
And the fury on that fucking album, it's ridiculous. So at that time, this was before, you know, people understood really what death metal was, before like the lines had been drawn, and everyone was just trying to, in their own way, go beyond thrash metal.
Right.
Whatever that fucking meant. And so you get a lot, because I went back a few years ago and I listened to, you know, there was an Invisible Oranges album or article about like the top 20, you know, they wrote it in like 2016 or something, like the top 25 death metal albums of 1991, like the year that death metal became legit or whatever.
What a good fucking article premise.
It was amazing.
You can do 25 albums of death metal in that one year. That tells you everything you need to know.
because that was like the year that, this is a thing, right?
Right.
And they put them in chronological order, so it was like, this is in January, this came out in February. It was so cool. So I went and I listened to them all in order, and a lot of it is, how do you sound unique without sounding like Slayer? Or without sounding like thrash metal. And so the way that a lot of the bands would sound unique is, you have a different style of vocals. Okay. And so what a lot of the bands would do is they have that, what I call that Tampa snarl that like Death did, so you get a lot of that. And sometimes you would get bands that would do, so there's the sound of the vocals, but also like the cadence and the rhythms that they're using. So there's one band that would do like a different sound, but they're still just doing Slayer rhythms.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But then there's bands who would have like maybe a unique sound, but the rhythms are kind of uninteresting. And so what Frank does is Frank has, he does low guttural vocals, but he's also extremely rhythmic with them, which one is really goddamn difficult to do, and two is extremely unique.
Gotcha.
So, and because of that being so unique, and then also because of them inventing a new blast beat on this record, the Suffo blast, which
Right.
I don't know if that's clear which blast beat that is.
Well, so you had your notes, and you specified where that happened. Like I said, I didn't read your notes, but I made a note in here that said, cool blast beats on here. Suffo blast? Question mark? Sure enough, that was the one.
Right, like
So it's very apparent.
So like your traditional blast beat is bass and snare alternating. And then a Suffo blast is basically like your bass and your snare just being together, and like like your hands are in unison, and then your feet join that, so and man, no one does it like Mike Smith on fucking Effigy the Forgotten. It is upsetting like how intense he does it, and the speed he does it at. It just doesn't feel human.
Distressing.
Yeah, that's a great word for it. So, okay. So that's the thing that makes it, so the vocals being that way is a unique thing that then allows them to borrow more, I feel, from like the thrash lineage without it feeling like thrash. Because there is so much of the thrash vocabulary in their music. Skank beats everywhere, blah 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 blah. Where if you listen to like the Cannibal Corpse record that came out around the same time, like they avoid like skank beats like it's the fucking plague, or even Nile. Like Nile doesn't do those kind of beats. Anytime you do hear like a skank beat, it's at such a high tempo, it's more like a slow blast beat. It's not pulling on the same thing. And so why do the vocals work? This is what I think might actually like change how you view them. So the fact that the vocals aren't very dynamic or varied in tone, like he doesn't do a bunch of highs and lows, like it's really just the one,
very monotone,
like the one pitch.
Totally. Yeah.
Just lots of like interesting rhythms and intensity, right?
Yeah.
But him not varying it creates this really interesting effect, as if the whole entire band is a single instrument and nothing stands out too much.
Yeah. Okay.
Very similar to Meshuggah.
I don't agree with that. But I see what you're saying with it. I just don't think that Meshuggah is that way.
Well, in the sense that the singer has a very monotone, consistent vocal line, Like the only thing that's really changing is the rhythm and the length. It's just that what Jens is doing is higher pitched than what Frank does.
Yeah. I don't know. I would maybe argue that somehow that allows him to be more expressive in a weird way. That allows Jens to be more expressive in some way.
Sure.
I see the similarities though. I see what you're getting at.
Yeah, and I feel like they get a similar thing done with the dials turned in different proportions in different ways, you know? Because
yeah,
Meshuggah is tuned lower than they are. Right. Is essentially amelodic. And so that register that Jens is singing in makes more sense. Right? Whereas Suffocation still has like solos in a traditional sense, still has like riffs that go into the upper register, still has, harmonies and, and all those types of things. So it makes sense for the vocals to be lower to get that same just onslaught, brutal, consistent thing happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how goddamn aggressive the vocals are. How intense, like it feels like he's pissed.
Does it?
To me, it does. It might be because I've seen Frank live.
You've seen him do it. You've seen the fucking spit coming out of his mouth and the
right. And he's like a real like physical, imposing dude. And I've watched like old footage of him, and so maybe I attach it to that. But like I feel it in a way I don't feel a lot of other extreme vocals. It feels, like intense in a different way.
Yeah.
So
it just doesn't feel that different to a lot of other death metal vocals to me. Where like it sounds like he's trying to make a certain type of sound, but the impression that I get is that he's not having to try very hard to do that, which is the exact opposite of what you're saying. But I don't doubt that he's putting forth effort, if that makes sense.
Well, it's not about the effort.
Like it almost sounds breathier than I would imagine it to be.
I mean, it might be because there wasn't a rule book on how to do this. When he figured out how to, like, literally no one knew how to sound like he did.
Sure, and if they're trying to sound different than other bands, like it stands to reason that they would get there to some extent.
Right.
It's just that to my ear, it doesn't do enough different, I guess. I don't know. Like to me, it's very, I don't know how better to say it, but like it sounds like he's grunting in a way that isn't particularly like he's trying to put forth effort into it. He just wants to create a sound.
I guess
which is the point of a singer, yes, obviously. But.
Right. I mean, maybe that is kind of part of it or something like that. Or like, I don't know. Like,
yeah.
Another thing that's possible is like maybe you haven't spent enough time listening to death metal.
So
and like to hear like the different, to like hear what does set his way of doing different. It. Yeah.
So okay. Because I
this is not a genre of music that you typically listen, like,
Yeah, for sure. Like I don't have a lot of experience in a lot of the different varieties.
Yeah, you wouldn't consider yourself a death metal fan.
Definitely not a connoisseur, or definitely not a passing fan either.
Right. You like some things. You like some things that death metal does.
Yeah, some things that maybe are death metal adjacent or have taken things from death metal, so on and so forth. But
right,
very little, if any, actual death metal. I don't know that any of that's going to change my mind here. I just kind of don't like the vocals.
That's okay.
Yeah, I don't hate you, because I can appreciate that they are different. Mm-hmm. I just don't think that it does anything for me. That's kind of all it is.
Right. And I bet that's almost like a little challenge for me to almost sort of like, all right, I'm gonna like, here's how this band does gutturals, and here's how this band does it, and here's how this band does it, and like put them all next to each other, and then you'd be like, oh, okay.
Well, I mean,
I see why that's different than those, and why you, Richard, because I know you like intense shit, why you would prefer that, and why that would mean more to you,
right,
than that or that.
So one interesting thing to do with this, though, is that you put a death song on this list.
Mm-hmm.
And I quite like that song.
I knew you would.
And the vocals are not at all. They have similarities.
Blech, they don't.
Here's a couple. 5%. let's be extremely conservative here.
The only similarities they were recorded Morrison.
All right, well, maybe the microphone they used was, but yeah, like there's so much more dynamism going on in that song, vocally especially, to me.
So okay. So the reason that the death song is on here is, this is going to be a weird pivot, but so I put that song on here as a reference to the drumming, because that Death album is came out the same year as this,
right?
As Effigy, but that Death album, Human, is a watershed moment for death metal as a whole, because it like the production went up a notch and the playing went up a notch, because like Chuck had like a rotating lineup, almost like every album seemed to have different people on it.
He kind of was the consistent member of that band,
right? And so on Human, you have Sean Reinert on drums. You have Steve DiGiorgio. These are so many names I haven't said out loud. Oh my god, I feel like such an ass. Like, I read about these all the time. He's playing in Slayer now, plays fretless bass, all this sort of shit.
Oh shit. Okay.
Right, and Paul Masvidal on guitar. All like, technically speaking, these guys are just on another planet. And they were also very familiar with the jazz fusion language. All of these guys.
I feel like I can pick up on that.
And they brought that in to that sound. Okay.
Okay.
And now, to me, what that did is that like kind of pushed death metal to me. It's arguable that this album, Human, is like the first technical death metal album, and it pushed death metal into like a more technical direction. And because if you compare that to, say, like some of the Napalm Death stuff that I showed you, like the grindcore that's like, just go for it. What they're doing on Human, on that song, it's a different universe. It's a different intention. It's
right.
a totally different thing.
Right.
But this is the thing. You can't. No one can play. There's only one person who can play like Sean Reinert, and that's Sean Reinert. So you weren't going to be able to do that. And that wasn't going to work with most music, most other stuff anyway. So you had all these people, you had all these drummers and all these musicians, I'll speak to drummers specifically. All these drummers trying to, like, okay, well, how do I get beyond just the brutality and the intensity and add like this technicality and this flair and all this ear candy and stuff? And to me, the way that Doug Bohn does it on Pierced from Within is like, that's it. That's the template. That is the exact way to do it. That is death metal drumming compositionally perfected, because you have incredible grooves. Like, the grooves feel, like the feel on the grooves is So good. You have other death metal bands that try to play slow stuff before, but the feel is trash. It feels stiff and gross. And not so
like a cadaver.
It's because these guys had to put so much effort into playing double bass the way that they did, you know, in fucking 1990 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they didn't have time to like,
right.
You know. And I don't know if it's like a New York thing. I don't know what it is, but I know that like when they groove on this record on Pierce from Within, it fucking grooves.
Yeah.
So you have that. You have you have long double bass runs. You have blast beats. You have Suffo blast. You have skank beats. You have 6/8 played really, really well.
Yeah.
And then you have all of this ear candy, all of these like ghost notes, all these cool cymbal things. All of it is all here on Pierce from Within. To me, it's one of my favorite. It is up there, and I feel like it is like the best example of that. And so I wanted to put a death song from that album to kind of like, because I feel like what Doug did is he took like Effigy of the Forgotten and then what Sean Reiner did on Human, and he split the difference down the middle.
I see.
And he's like, I'm gonna do, because this is the thing is like Pierce from Within is incredible compositionally, but it feels a little more attainable. And and this is the thing too, is like it's technical, but it never distracts from the music. It never gets too brainy. And Sean's playing definitely does get there. Like he's letting you know that he's a really, really good drummer. And Doug, that not so much on Pierce from Within. Like Pierce from Within is like brutality and songwriting first, but still has all that technical ear candy, you know, and all of the syncopation and all of that stuff is in there too. But it's not as front and center as the way that it is on.
I can see that. Yeah. I think I can pick that up.
And so that's why I had that on here. But I knew I would, because this is the thing too. You know what the album was that I realized, like, maybe I just fucking like death metal. It was Human.
Exactly.
So
right.
Maybe give that one a few spins, and that might be your gateway. Because it's an incredible work. It's one of the best. Like, you know, it's just that that's not my preference now.
Mm-hmm.
But as a guitar player, yeah, you'll fucking love that record.
Yeah, there's a lot to grab onto there, I think.
There's so much. You can really, like, all of the death stuff is really, really good. And really fun. It's fun to listen to in a way that most death metal is not fun to listen to.
Right. We'll come back to that, I think.
Okay.
Oh shit, I'm looking at the wrong thing.
All right.
Oh, but anyway, so we kind of got here via the vocals.
Okay.
And I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit about the lyrics.
Okay, yeah.
Because maybe we won't need to talk a whole lot about that. As far as okay, so yeah, I kind of wanted to ask, like, what do you think about the lyrics on these albums in general? Like, do you know them? Do you seek them out?
I know some of them. And you like, whenever I am learning these songs and I like am at that last stage, I guess that's when I will really start to dig into the lyrics, because it helps me just kind of like, oh, okay, this is
like, it helps you like place yourself in the song.
Yes, and it also is almost makes sense, because these songs don't have like the way these arrangements are. It's not like, you know,
they're not traditionally structured with like verse, chorus, verse, bridge, outro.
Right. It almost makes sense to sort of like think of Suffocation songs as like, you know, intro, pre stanza 1, post stanza 1, stanza 2, post stanza 2, You know, it
because they do have repeating structures at times, but
at times.
they usually can't. From what I've heard on this playlist, at least, they can't be constrained to this is a chorus.
Very rarely.
Or this is a verse. This is something that's going to repeat in the same way but differently. It's just they'll do this thing maybe once again over here.
Right. There's very few verses. You know, there's a verse in As Grace Descends. Pierce from Within has a definite verse that happens twice. You know, but yeah, it's and so that's a part of like when I'm learning these songs is to sort of, you know, read over the lyrics and whatnot. But yeah, so did you spend some time with the lyrics?
Yeah, I read through, like, as I was listening to on my I guess my third listen of the playlist, I listened to each song and then went through and read all the lyrics.
Okay.
Because, you know, at a cursory, not a glance, but like a quick listen, I get whatever a small listen is called. I was like, but boy, these sound like death metal lyrics. And boy, was I right.
And boy, are they.
And that's fine.
Right.
I don't care about them, but that's totally fine. Nothing against it.
What I can say that I like about it is I feel like it's very like what you see is what you get, and I don't feel like
exactly.
You know, like even on that live record, like Frank is like, this song's about killing people because that's what I like to do. It's called Thrones of Blood. And
holy shit.
And
Frank, buddy.
So, and I guess like what I like about it is that it feels like it's very like what you see is what you get, and there's not other weird shit laced into it.
Like they didn't do anything bad instead.
Well, like what I mean is, so like a few episodes ago, or I don't know what episode it was, but I brought up that Malevolent Creation album, like the one where like in the end of it the dude drops like a hard R.
Yeah.
And like, so it doesn't feel like Suffocation gets anywhere close to that kind of stuff. Like it's very much like, yeah, man, I'm talking about like cutting people up, wearing their skin and shit. You know?
Yeah, like despite me going like, holy fuck, like that's what we're talking about. Like I know exactly what you mean. Also,
it's not like, well, these kinds of people are vermin. It's never that. And so,
like on some stupid, like in the weirdest, most detached possible way, it's like, oh, it's not very hate filled.
Yeah,
but like also. What are you talking about here? Well, but I know exactly what you mean.
It's like if you wanted to draw like a film, like, or like, you know, like there's a difference between like the political overtone, the potential political overtones of a movie like, you know, Friday the 13th or Halloween, or Reanimator or something, or Hellraiser even, versus a film like Falling Down.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And like that, I don't think that they're trying to. There's nothing like they don't. I appreciate it staying in the gore lane. You know, the like, you know, it's death metal. You know.
Yeah. This is. I don't know if mindless is the right word, but like, it's not. It's like overly generalized to like a ridiculous degree.
Yeah.
It's not targeted. It's not.
Yes. Yeah. There you go.
It's not specifically personal. It's very impersonal.
Yeah.
Despite like talking about a person or whatever, you know.
Right. Yeah. And that's like that's like the death metal shtick. You know.
Very much it is. It feels like a shtick. It almost feels like these lyrics are here because they have to be here.
Well,
to some extent.
That's the thing that's part of it, and it's
like we're doing death metal. We have to do the death metal lyrics.
Well, and like that's kind of the thing that I like about it, is, and that kind of goes with the stage presence you get with death metal, it being kind of stoic and kind of detached.
And I'm not saying that derogatorily, even just like an observation,
right? Because you can't like go out on stage and like mean these lyrics the way that like
I hope not
that like Jonathan Davis would mean his lyrics in the mid 90s, right. Or you know what I mean.
These lyrics, I think, by and large, aren't coming from the heart.
Yeah, like
as it were.
And again, like that's kind of this contradiction of the band that propels it, is that you have someone who like sat down and really thought about the poetry of evisceration, like a very like cerebral, like thought out aspect about something that is like just primal and uncomfortable and gross, and then you deliver it vocally in a way that's like just a sound, but then you do it in this complicated rhythm. And this is the thing. How crazy these arrangements of these fucking songs are. Like technically from like a, you know, like fucking Frank has to know this shit inside and out, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's just more of that like contradiction that makes it so fascinating and makes it really, really work.
Right. And
I think that's what another one of the things that like makes me keep coming back to it. And just it being just this inexhaustible well for me. Because there's just layers upon layers upon layers.
Mm.
And yeah. So, but like that's kind of like it's we've talked about this before, but a lot of times the way that vocals function in a genre of music is like, you're not welcome here. If you don't like this ain't for you. You know?
Right.
It's meant to be like an anti-hook in a way. In some ways, it is a barrier to entry.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, like these guys were trying, and that's the thing too, is like we sit in a weird spot because by the time that we started to get into extreme music, death metal was not cool anymore. Like in the, you know, now it's all about black metal. Like black metal was the thing, was the hip new extreme thing. And like, so this idea of like Cookie Monster vocals was already seemed kind of like almost lame when we started to get into extreme music, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I just don't know that would. I don't know that me being from any different era would change my. I think it's just completely subjective for me. I think I just don't like the way that sounds.
And that's cool.
Yeah, like for better or worse.
Right.
That's just how I feel about it, and I don't know that any timing would have helped me or hurt me with that. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you remember that Doom band I showed you, Warning?
Yeah.
Lots of people hate those fucking vocals.
Oh, I can imagine.
You know?
Like, I heard that and I was like, this is... If I thought anything, I was like, this is fucking divisive.
Yeah,
but it's just so happened that I loved it.
Right. And that's probably how this was at first, too, when people fucking heard it. So
Sure. But, yeah, so I didn't have a whole lot, like, insightful or anything to say about the lyrics, but like,
oh yeah, that's what we're talking about.
I was just kind of curious how you viewed them and how you engaged with them, if you engaged with them at all.
I don't engage with them the way that I engage with other lyrics.
Right, because there's like, you can't do a lot with what's here versus like what you can do with like Machine Head or something like that. There's nothing to grab onto in the same way,
and they're not meant to be that.
Exactly.
And I think that is another aspect of it that makes this band so fascinating to me, is that I normally don't feel music this hard that I'm not connecting with the lyrics on.
Sure. Yeah, that's true.
because normally lyrics are an extremely important part of that process. But the vocals are still an absolute important, like the vocals and the delivery are still an absolutely essential, important part of the experience, you know? And why I feel this music the way that I feel it. If you had different vocals, or if you had like it going all over the place, like, you know, like lows and mids and highs and scoops and, you know, and all that sort of stuff, like it would be distracting, and it would take away from this like hypnotic brutality that it has.
I mean, I feel like I do see what you mean by that, because it plays into the whole the composition as a whole.
Right.
I do see that.
Yeah, like imagine if, like, you know, fucking Jins and Meshuggah, like, you know, every third song there was a bridge where he sang like Dio or something.
I'm pretty fucking sick.
But it might lose some momentum.
Yeah, it would not be a Meshuggah song anymore. Mm-hmm. Is the point, I think.
Right.
Dio's pretty cool though.
Dio's great.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess that was kind of my main thing. I just kind of wanted to know like what you thought about it and how you felt about that. I was very curious, especially after which song? I think maybe after Cycles of Suffering is it when it really popped into my head. I was like, is Frank Mullen the inspiration that Brendan Small took for Nathan Explosion? Because damn, is there like an uncanny resemblance? And it turns out the answer is no. I think it was like Corpse Grinder. From what I could tell,
but fuck, dude.
But
like,
boy,
who is Corpse Grinder taking? You know, like, because Corpse Grinder's on one of these fucking songs here.
Is he really
on Effigy? Yeah,
fucking man.
Yeah, I forget which one it is because I'm not a real metal fan.
Bad fan.
Yeah, it's in Mass Obliteration. Whatever, it doesn't matter.
And so what I'm talking about is the singer from Death Clock,
yes.
the fictional band.
Backup vocals on Cremation and Mass Obliteration by George Corpse Grinder of Monstrosity.
There we go. There we go. But yeah, like just listening to some of this, I was like, boy, that sounds like the same like tone of voice and type of delivery that Death Clock has.
Yeah.
Which is just Brendan Small doing the vocals as in character, sort of. But damn, it sounds so similar.
Well,
in a lot of ways. I was like, is that where you got inspiration from? And
assuredly, in some regard, because I'm not as versed in. I've listened to it like here and there, but I just don't feel super competent about, like, you know, early Cannibal Corpse and like the real differences between the Chris Barnes era and the Corpse Grinder era. But what I can say is that some of those later or more recent Cannibal Corpse records are goddamn fucking amazing. Like, they are so good. And, you know, George is, of course, legend, top shelf, all those things.
Yeah.
So
known for a reason.
Yeah, known for a reason. And all these guys are really nice guys too.
I think he's the dude who plays WoW a lot.
He is.
Is it? That's right.
That's him. Yeah.
He's done like whole interviews about like how much he likes playing WoW. I was like, that's adorable.
Yeah. Like, he's just, he's
good shit.
Yeah, he's a great dude. So more in like my random things that make the band special. Their use of odd time and odd sounding phrases is so unique.
Yeah.
It feels really, really organic.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's very much like based on the sound. Like, well, no, this is just how I hear it. Like, you get that sense of it. Like, well, this is just how I want it to sound. It doesn't feel like it's counted out. Not that I'm saying they can't fucking count or whatever. That's not what I'm fucking saying. But like, as a point of contrast, like you listen to like Dream Theater, or you even listen to like some of the death stuff on the Human, like it feels like he's playing in 7 because they want to play in 7.
Yeah.
Or they're playing in 13 because they want to play in 13. When Suffocation does it, they're like, no, this is how the riff just needed a little more that one time.
Right. Just throw a little bit on the end of this one, and it happens to be a different.
Right. Or we're going to end the riff on, like the riff is, I'm not going to end the riff on a downbeat. I'm going to end the riff on this note. Like I feel like there's a lot of things that they do that way where a phrase, where it feels like a section starts early because it's starting on a particular note in the sequence of the riff that makes sense, as opposed to starting on, after 4 beats or whatever. There's a specific spot that in Thrones of Blood that makes me think of that. But yeah, so that's a thing that, I don't know, is that a thing that you noticed? Like just how fucking odd.
I mean, I noticed like, because even you brought up after I went back and looked, like all the 6/8 stuff that they do, and just sort of it all feels very natural within the context of each song.
Right.
Like they just kind of go into the next feel, and it always feels good.
Yeah, and like how effortlessly, like especially on a song like Cycles of Suffering, that might be like the fucking the ultimate example of like, I don't know how many, like it's a tour of beats. It's like all of the beats, all of the things you can do in metal, and they just go around and do all of it and tie it together seamlessly in a fucking 4-minute song.
Yeah. Like one of my notes from that was like my hand aches just from imagining playing the song because there's just so much happening.
Dude, and every fucking song of theirs is like that, and it's just one after another. There's no ballad in the middle of the set for shit to slow down. It's just all this for an hour, and it's the best.
Well, so that kind of leads to one of my, I had a bit of a realization, and then I had a sort of a summary, which was also a realization. But we'll get to that at the end. But one of my realizations is of what, like, because I still, for as much as I enjoyed listening to this, and have enjoyed listening to the death metal stuff, I would still not call myself a death metal fan. And there's still things I just don't like about some of it.
Right.
That just doesn't hit me the right way, And I think one of the things is that extremely apropos of a band named Suffocation, there's just no room for things to breathe sometimes. There's always there's no air available. There's no space a lot of times. And I think one of the things I realized is like that's one of the things I really look for, I guess, in a lot of music. And that's just not the MO for a lot of death metal.
Right, because whenever there's space in the guitar, like, gong, 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 then the drums.
Somebody else is like, wait a minute, me.
Yeah.
Or bass or vocals or whatever.
Right.
There's always something going fucking hard.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
And I think another thing that's interesting about them too is that they're also a band. It's another reason that seeing them live is so amazing is because it's like seeing Meshuggah live. Like you don't need to know fucking dick about any of these songs. Like you just, oh, that's that kind of beat. Let me fucking go. Oh, that's that kind of beat. Oh, we're stopping. Okay, gung, 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 gung. Now another beat, and so you can just totally turn your mind off and just rage, and so it's different than a lot of the music that we gravitated towards when we were younger, which was very much, listener experience first of how does this feel when you listen to it on headphones in your room and this dynamic journey and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. You're not getting a journey.
Not in that way, for sure.
No. Not like that. Like this, it's a totally different kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
And a lot of it, I think, it is related to, you know, like the live experience, and it is related to, you know, like the way that people fucking move when they hear this music. I feel like that's an important element of it.
So what do live shows look like? Because when my experience and imagining of a metal show is like people are kind of grooving on the outside, and then there's a pit. Is it basically the same kind of thing?
Yeah, more or less.
Okay.
You know,
and it kind of happens at the same like cadence of like a typical metal show, because like the song will start and maybe a couple people, and then there's a part where the pit happens.
It's a little.
Are there different dynamics? Is what I'm asking, I guess.
It's a little bit more unpredictable as to like when those.
What part of the song like sets it off?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, as to like when you're gonna hit those critical mass moments. You know, of like, oh well, now we're all doing it.
Right.
And
like sometimes a part you may not expect for that to happen.
Right. Well, I wouldn't say that you wouldn't expect, but you just, you know, like, I don't know, man. Like sometimes you just have 10 people close enough together, and they all just really like thrash, really like skank beats, and so there it goes, you know, circle pit. There it's happening.
That's all it takes. I like that powder keg.
And but yeah, it's a little less. It feels less like. Choreographed isn't the like the right word, but it feels less like, all right, so this is okay, now you do this thing, this is the kind of thing you do here. It's just more like a seething like mass of activity and intensity, you know. Okay,
so just maybe a little more chaotic, because I think what you're getting at is like, at least from my experience, a lot of times you're hearing songs that there's a part that everyone is expecting, and that is the time when the pit explodes.
Right, yeah. It's not like, oh, you get to the middle of Imperium and Rob Flynn, circle pit! Like, that shit doesn't happen. I mean...
Right.
So, I mean, there will be circle pits, but...
Right. Or like when the solo in Clinching kicks in.
Yeah,
and then people go fucking apeshit.
Right.
You know that's going to happen.
Right. It's not... I mean... There are certain sections, like there's the slam part and like Liege of Inveracity, and people are gonna always lose their fucking mind there because it invented an entire genre of music.
Well, this is out of obligation, out of respect for that part.
But I guess like what is interesting to me is it feels like people I don't know. I don't really know. But it's not like, okay, this is my favorite. This is my favorite part of the Suffocation song. It's just, yeah, all of it is your favorite part all the time. It's just, I don't know, man. And this last show was really special, man. It was wild because at one point I look up and everyone, because I don't really like, I haven't like, I mean, I occasionally come out of mosh retirement, but it's not like where that's not what I'm there for. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you get sucked into it, then maybe you kind of go with it for a little
while. It's fine. Yeah. I did come out of mosh retirement at Origin, you know, but that was a different vibe. That's a different thing. So I'm usually like sort of like off to the side, but really close up front, so that I can like, you know, do my thing, which is like scream the lyrics and headbang and do a lot of this and be up front and intense and like part of it without, but I want to focus on the band and the music. I don't want to focus on the pitting. Right.
Right. Yeah. I'm kind of the same.
But so I look up and like everyone, there's like 15 people in the pit, and they're all like arm in arm, and they're all just headbanging. You know, I've never seen that before, and it was just so cool, and
like the metal version of a rocket line.
It was so amazing. I don't know if they did it during Suffo's set, but they did it during Cerebral set. I look up and there's like a push-up contest. 20 people doing fucking push-ups. You know? because that's the thing people do now.
All right.
And
Cool. Yeah, getting fit. Fuck it.
I was like, dude, it's like this is so much more healthy than like people getting butt hurt because of like wanting to hurt each other harder in pits and shit like that, and throwing elbows and shit because someone pushed you too hard.
Totally.
And
big ups.
So yeah. I talked about that they don't that. Another thing I like, because I love thrash metal, and they don't shy away from, like, they're not afraid to wear those influences on their, like, it feels like there's just no sort of, like, they just do so many things that I love, and no other band I know does all of those things. Like, lots of other bands I know, like, they do, like, 2 or 3 of them, but they don't do all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, they do all that, but then they don't groove, or they do all that, but they don't do skank beats. They do all that, but then they don't do chugs, or they don't do slams, and they don't do, or they have like a strict no blast beat policy. Because you don't hear any blast beats in Death's music, for instance. None. They invented death metal. No blast beats in their music.
Well, they didn't invent blast metal.
Fuck off. But yeah. So that's kind of part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I put the songs in the reverse. I don't know if it was the right call, but I put them in like the reverse chronological order.
Right. With the newest first.
Just because I figured like, well, if the production's cleaner, that'll make it easier for him to grab a hold of like their stylistic elements, and then maybe that'll carry on as like the production quality gets less and less.
Because there were times when that absolutely was the case.
So is there anything you wanted to add, or do you want to just do some track by track and shit?
Yeah, we can go ahead. We can go into that.
Okay. So the first song on here was As Grace Descends.
Mm-hmm. And this was 2013?
Yeah. So before Charlie joined the band, but you do have Derek and Terrence. And you have Dave Coolros. I think that's how you say his name. I don't know. Coolros. I don't know.
Cool Ross.
You have him on drums. And as far as like churning out recorded performances, I think his performances on that record, Pinnacle of Bedlam, that might be, I think that's my favorite. Like, because that guy's on another fucking level.
Your favorite drumming performance on one of their albums?
Right. I think that and I mean, and it's not really fair to compare that to like Pierce From Within, because Pierce From Within is fucking 1995. It's like 10 years, or no, what? Like 18
17,
years?
18 years, yeah.
Before that, but like, man, that album, Pinnacle of Bedlam, especially the drumming on that record, is something fucking special, because it is like, it's technical, but it is goddamn lethal. I don't know how else to fucking describe it. Like, there is a precise, like, cold technical brutality to the way that he plays drums, specifically, that no one else quite does it. Like, his fills are weird, his phrasing is weird, like the bridge of As Grace Descends, like all that cymbal work. Oh my God. It took me like an entire day just to transcribe like that, just those few bars, because of all of the crazy shit that all the crazy cymbal work he's doing. He's on another fucking level, man. Mad respect for that dude. So what'd you think of this song?
Yeah, I think your ruse worked, and because the main thing I noticed about this was like, the production sounds fucking great. Oh, it's like this sounds really good,
clean as fuck.
I specifically like the guitar tone quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
I think I went back and wrote that in retrospect though, after getting through the list, because like some of these tones, there's like the mids are up to 20.
Yeah, sure.
And the dials don't go to 20.
Sure.
I don't know how they did that, but
sure.
it sounds really, really fucking good on here.
Yeah, man. And this, another thing you hear there's so many interesting things in this song. I could spend like 20 minutes just breaking down all this stuff, but like like that first like post verse thrash, like the first verse, the part that comes right after it, that part still confuses the shit out of me. Like I've transcribed it and it still does. I'm like, that can't be right. Like I look at it, like, that ain't right. I'm missing something, you know. But it is so, because I think it's like groups of like groups of like sevens, like fives and sevens or something. It's some like weird thing, but it adds up to be 8. You know what I mean? But it's like it's done in just such a weird way. Anyway,
Right.
so cool. And then on the outro at 2:15 and like 2:45ish, you hear like this straight up like grindcore, like D beat kind of thing, like, you know, like, and you don't normally hear that in like brutal technical kind of stuff, you know, like that ventures into other territory. And so it's just another like example to me of how they just go between all these different sub genres, like, effortlessly.
So that's stuff that I absolutely will not pick up on.
Right.
So yeah, because like that, I didn't have many other notes on this song. Because yeah, I can't pick out stuff like that. That's completely beyond me.
Sure.
So,
yeah,
talking about like brutal tech death specifically, that sort of thing. You mentioned that Death, when you heard the Death album for the first time, that was sort of shit. What did you say earlier? That was
the album where I was like, oh shit, I guess I just like death metal.
You would like death metal.
Yeah.
But you also said that was sort of
arguably the first technical death metal album.
Right. So, what would you call? So this is the album that came out at the same time, right?
No, Effigy is.
Effigy is. So what would you call this album?
This is,
because the reason I'm asking is because my thought was like, Suffocation is overall a brutal tech death band.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, brutal. So
but maybe they got there at a certain point.
I mean, this is still technical as fuck for, you know, like, I mean.
So you just consider this.
There's no metric. There's need to be no qualifier. Like, Effigy of the Forgotten is still technical as fuck. So, but yeah, this is like brutal technical death metal.
Okay.
Is what you would, is like Suffocation are like the definitive, you know, brutal, because they're brutal, right?
Right.
Whatever that means.
I've asked about this before and didn't get a great answer, but that's fine. Because no one knows. It's
because you can't really
very nebulous.
You can't really define it. You can only define it relative to other things.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And comparing Suffocation, specifically Suffocation to Human, the Death album, is a great comparison, because Human is technical death metal, but not brutal.
Right. And I think I can pick up on that distinction.
Right.
So.
Right.
Okay. Cool.
And so.
I just wanted to ask that earlier because I didn't know if there were other nuances that I was missing out on there.
To some, probably, but not to me. So, like, Suffocation is brutal, technical death metal, like, from beginning to end. From the beginning of their career to the end of their career. Or to now. And there are other bands that sort of try to push the dials a little bit, like Cryptopsy. Like I put one of their songs on the death metal list. And you know, and then there's also like the death grind thing that some bands do, you know, but it's the thing. Okay, this is a good example. Because I had the idea had been floated with the death metal slam band I'm in to like do some covers, and they were like, I was like, well, what about like Suffocation? Wink, 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 wink. And they were like, well, It's all rocket science riffs.
Right.
You know, so like, and then like, how about we just play this song by Benighted called Reptilian that's at 270 BPMs. So, but the guitar...
The solution to harder riffs was go way the fuck faster, but easier riffs.
Yeah. Because the guitars aren't playing, like the drums are playing 16ths at 270 or whatever, but the fucking guitar isn't.
Gotcha.
The guitar is playing fucking power chords. Don't get me, I mean, Benign is fucking amazing. That song's amazing. I'm not shitting on that.
But like eighth notes versus tremolo picking or whatever.
But like Suffocation's riffs are technical as fuck. Deceptively so, because you don't like really realize how much is going on there until you like try to play them usually.
And that's probably the case, because that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier, where it's like I could write this, because some of it just sounds really simple, where it's just like like I could probably write something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure, and in hearing the way that the composition is framed and they put everything together, there's something there that is like you said, deceptively
the arrangements
more difficult.
The way that they put the songs together is truly masterful, and it is nebulous, and I barely understand it after having transcribed 12 of their songs. I still don't fucking get it, you know?
Yeah.
It's weird. I don't, you know, but it's fucking genius as far as I'm concerned. And like how they're able to do that. And a lot of it is like, it's not just the individual riffs. It's how all of it comes together.
Right.
You know?
Right. Exactly.
As an interesting little aside here, kind of pointing to that. So this was their first record. Okay. Well, I have all of them. So, and then a pile over there on the floor. So, okay. So this was the first one. This is like demos and shit, right? This is Human Waste. And this is what got them signed, actually, I believe. And so, you know, Infecting the Crypts, I think, and Mass Obliteration, Jesus Wept, Reincarnation, these would all end up on Effigy of the Forgotten, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Synthetically Revived would end up on Pierced from Within. Catatonia would end up on Despise the Sun, which is where the song Funeral Inception was, you know. And then here's what else is really fascinating. So they release Effigy of the Forgotten. Everyone's like, oh my God, this is fucking amazing, blah, 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 blah. And then 2 years later, for whatever fucking reason, they weren't given the budget they needed to record Breeding the Spawn at Morris Sound Studios, and wherever the fuck they recorded. Anyway, it is known, it is understood that this record sounds like shit. Okay.
Right.
It's bad. But like, this is where the song Breeding the Spawn is, you know, like that's its first appearance. And so the production on this is so bad. It's just that what they started doing is they started every album after this one, they pick a track and they re-record it.
Nice.
And it's almost always like the last track on the album. So yeah, so
that's
like
fucking brilliant.
Breeding the Spawn, you know, and then you let me see. Hold on. Is it this one? Is it Beginning of Sorrow? Yep. So on Pinnacle of Bedlam, it's Beginning of Sorrow, and you know, and so on Of the Dark Light, it's Epitaph to the Credulous and all this sort of stuff. And so this is the point I'm getting to. They always fit. They don't seem out of place.
Right. Like the thing that was clearly dragging that down was the production.
And
not the songwriting.
Exactly. It means that the songwriting has been there since the fucking beginning.
Right.
Since they were children. you know,
Yeah.
you know, and that again, just another thing that like, because what other fucking band would that make sense? You know, like, oh, let's take a song off of the demo and put it on the record we made 20 years into our career, and it works. It makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just at like songwriting wise, it's just as brutal and as intense as everything here. The only thing that was holding it up was recording quality.
Right.
And that's another layer to what is fascinating about them, is that in a way they like haven't evolved.
Yeah,
They've
like
just gotten better at doing that thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was gonna say, in some arenas, in some like genres, that would be a huge negative because like it would just be AC/DC at that point. You've been making the same fucking album for 30 years.
Right.
But like, if that's what you're going for,
right,
and you're just getting better at doing it, then that's not a knock anymore.
Right. Well, and it's fascinating to me too because each album does have its own individual character. And I guess part of it is because of the production or whatever, but it's just amazing that they just drop these fucking like this 20-year-old song in there, and it's like, oh, perfect.
That's awesome. Yeah.
You know.
But, I mean, just think about, because we've been talking about it lately, like think about Machine Head doing that.
Yeah.
Think about them taking a song from Supercharger to Burning Red and re-recording it and putting it on fucking Locust.
Right. Or if they took something from
completely out of place.
Like if they took like something off of the More Things Change, right, and put that on, you know, the Burning Red. Put one of those on Supercharger.
Yeah,
one of those on
something that close. Yeah.
Ashes. One of those on da 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 da.
Right.
It'd be fucking. It would be a trade. It was nonsense.
It would totally not fit. Yeah. So yeah, it is like a weird, like, backhanded compliment almost, where like, you can do this. That's fucking cool.
And it to me, because like I think that it's one of the reasons it's so impressive is because death metal is like so technical, and it's all about like pushing the fucking limits and pushing the envelope and blah 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 blah. And then whenever you like track a song that is fucking, you know, 20 some odd years old, and it holds its own against what other people are writing and releasing and
in present day
right. Like, and it holds its own with like the best shit that you could come up with too. You know, like where you're at writing wise too,
right?
You know, because I don't want to like make it sound like all of their albums are the same, because they're definitely not. There's lots of
yeah, they're not AC/DC.
No.
Whose albums are the same?
Each album has a very, very unique thumbprint to it, but still there's still that continuity, I guess. All right.
Also, I want to say, like, this is this the like original art for this and everything?
I think that was like, so I think that got re-released when they went to Relapse after being dropped from Roadrunner.
Oh, okay.
So I think that was like a self-released demo.
Okay.
So I don't know what the original artwork was.
Because like this is like some death metal ass art. This is fine, but maybe better than most actually. But this is like really classy. This is really nice. This whole back. Like I really like this back
of Human Waste. Yeah. Sure.
I don't know. This is really well done. It's interesting and classy in a way.
Yeah, I don't know.
Cool.
You're not wrong. I don't know the release.
Okay.
The release history of that particular one. I know that it was like their demo, and I know that was what got them signed. It's trickier too with the vinyls, because a lot of the vinyls have been reprinted, but the CDs haven't.
Right.
So like you'll notice here on the Pierce From Within vinyl, like this says like, oh, listenable records, right? Which is, I know it's dumb.
That's really good.
It's a label, I think, in France. But these CDs, you know, like the Breathe, Spawn, Pierce From Within, Effigy, like these still say Roadrunner.
Yeah.
So, you know, these are, you know, this one was actually, I had to pay more than you should have to pay for a CD to get that one. Because I'm into that shit.
Right on.
All right. So I mean, I got lots of notes on other stuff. Entrails.
Yeah, we can just go down the list if you want.
Wrap that shit up.
Yeah, I didn't have a whole lot on this one either, but I did notice maybe it's just my broken brain recently, but the breakdown like sounded pretty machine heady in a lot of ways to me.
Oh yeah, you're not wrong.
Okay.
You're not wrong.
Okay. Yeah, especially like the
yeah.
But also just like the feel and the rhythm and everything, the speed and all that stuff.
Another thing that I like about them is that they will hang out in a mid tempo.
Yeah.
That a lot of other, death metal bands and shit won't. There's a live version of Entrails of You with Eric on it, and he triples the double bass. He goes, because you got the 16th notes, and then he, does his shit and like,
Jesus
goes from like 16ths at like 140 or 150 to like sextuplets at that speed or whatever, so. It's the same like mechanism in breeding the spawn,
right?
That in that live version, so it's pretty rad. So this one has Mike Smith on drums, which is the OG. So Mike Smith was there, and then he left when they did Pierce from Within, and then he came back for their reunion in like 2001, and was there for like a decade, and then left again. Hasn't been back since. So of course, there's lots of people on there. Like still, there's lots of people. So it's like, oh, Mike was better, whenever.
Right.
But I wanted to put. I chose Entrails of You for several reasons to put on here, but one was because it's like, all right, this is Mike Smith doing Mike Smith shit, and it's a better production than like what you hear on Effigy. So, but yeah, just absolute fucking furious madman drumming on on this, and it's different than like what Dave does. What Dave Coolrose does, because his is very like clinical and surgical, and this just feels like I don't know how to describe it, man, but it's.
It's different.
Yeah, it feels like the Dave Lombardo thing. Like I feel like Mike Smith's like the Dave Lombardo of death metal.
Okay, I got you.
It's like, oh, that's about to go off the tracks, and it never does.
Right.
Like it's just going for it the whole time. Like he knows the riffs inside and out. He can sing them to you. He can sing them while he's playing all that, but he is just going for it. It's not like I'm gonna play that part that I worked out really well in rehearsal. Nope, he is fucking going for it. Because like even the choruses are different drum parts. Like it's like this is one of the only Suffocation songs that actually has a chorus, but the drums are very different in each one of the choruses because Mike Smith don't give a fuck. So
that's true. I didn't think about that. Yeah, there is a chorus. It's goofy as hell, but it's there.
Yeah. Live, Frank would say this was a love song. Like,
yeah, of course. Of course you would say that.
Yeah, I tried writing a love song, but I ended up cutting her up and chopping people up because that's what I like to do.
It's what I do. It's what I do in my spare time.
Man.
Oh boy, I guess he sounds like that just talking normally.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Long Island shit or whatever.
Okay.
All right, so Entrails, did you have anything on that one?
That was all I had pretty much on that one. Yeah.
All right, Funeral Inception.
Yeah, this I think I noticed a lot of drumming stuff on here specifically.
Oh, interesting.
There was just a lot of really cool like double bass stuff going on that I could hear. And there was a sort of really interesting like sort of galloping thing going on at around like the 138 mark. I don't know if that means much to you. I have a lot of timestamps in here. I don't know if you'll know them.
I'm sure I'll know the part. I mean, not. I don't. Oh, hold on. Like I mean, I need to hear.
Because I think very quickly realized that I couldn't just say in the chorus.
Yeah.
So,
this chorus fucking rips.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So 138 Funeral Inception. Oh yeah.
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 I was like, I didn't expect that to pop up, but okay.
Yeah. So,
So what would you call that galloping? 'Cause that's kind of what it reads as to me.
sure. Yeah.
Okay.
N-
I don't know a better word for that.
So it is funny though, because like, was what that is, and you also hear that same beat in God, is it Effigy or Infect? I think it's in Infecting the Crypts on Effigy to figure out, but it's like this. I'll do it slowly.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, but, and then, like 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4, right? But just fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Okay.
there's this YouTube drummer. He has 66 Samus, and he did like this really popular like blast. Like, here's all the different blast beats videos, video like years ago. It's real fun. But so if you take that and you make it to where it's like a triplet, like, like that or whatever, he calls that the diarrhea blast. So, but anyway, yeah, not what Dave is doing, but yeah, it is kind of like a gallop.
That's the feel that it gives off, at least. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think of sure. That's a gallop.
I'll take it.
We'll take it.
Yeah, and there were other elsewhere. There were just like a lot of cool mini fills here and there. I think somewhere towards the end, especially.
For sure.
There was one where he was just like, "Ka-doom," and that was it for a second, and I just thought that was really funny.
Right.
And then there was like some, I don't know how to describe it, but there was like cymbal. I said cymbal flaring, where he's just like, shh. That happens a couple times, and it's like kind of unexpected because it doesn't.
Gunk, 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 gunk.
Yeah,
I think I know.
Like that's pretty cool too.
Yeah. What always catches me about this song is really all the just all the odd time in it, and all the extra beats, and like 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3. Like the intro is like 6 6 5. I think is what it is. But it's just, and that's all over but it's like, that's the other thing too, is like, you don't need to know that it's odd to get it and to move to it, right? You only realize it when you try to play it.
Right.
Or you try to write that shit out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, such a cool song.
Yeah.
Most of these songs, they always play live. Still. All right, so this was the song. Like, if there was one song on here that I was like, Robert's gonna fucking like this one.
Funeral Inception.
We're
moving on now.
Did you have more to say about it?
No, that was all I had.
But yeah, if there's one song that I was like, Robert's gonna fucking like this one.
Thrones of Blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. It was Did you have a particular reason for that?
Because it's a little more patient than the other songs. It's the only song without a blast beat.
Very observant of you.
It's slower. It sits in a slower tempo than most of it. I mean, yeah, the middle of it speeds up, but it's still on the lower end of a thrash tempo. Not on the lower end. It's still fast, but it's not like, it's more in the like 190 to 200. It's just cruising,
Cruise control.
It's not like As Grace Descends, which is more like 210,
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it's just a little more, I don't know. And it has like a cool fucking guitar solo.
Yeah, it did. Like, that was one of the notes that I made, and there were a lot of really just cool, interesting changes going on. Like there was a particularly cool transition out of halftime around about a minute into something else. Again, yeah, I don't know.
Keep talking.
Yeah. Well, let me hear this now. Yeah.
God damn, I love Frank's vocals so much. So, because I was talking about like, see, is this it? right? So that right there, to me, that's like a good example of like these transitions that they do that don't land on like the one. Okay. I'm talking about like 142-ish on Thrones of Blood.
Okay.
Let's see if I can hit it for you one more time. Right now. Like it's not
because it was like 5 hits, right? Dun 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 dun.
But where that phrase starts doesn't start on a downbeat, right? It's not like dun 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 dun. You know, it's like on an upbeat. I think it happens on beat 4 or something like that.
Okay.
So, but I get the impression that, you know, like, oh well, because that's the note that it made sense on guitar to change the riff there, you know, and shit like that.
Right.
So.
Right.
That's what I remember thinking when I was looking at the guitar part of
it. There was a particularly cool like part at around 213 where they go in and out of a groovy sort of part, back and forth a few times. Yeah, pretty into that.
Yeah, I'm glad that I wasn't wrong. Yeah. Go back.
And then they go back into and then back into that again. Yeah. Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
How they can go back and forth in and out of that, and make it still feel good. And yeah, I made a point about I said there was a pretty tasty guitar solo with big reverb.
Yeah.
And so I made a note of that on this song. And so I listened to this all the way through as I was making the whole playlist all the way through. So I made a note on this song, but then it turns out on like 3 or 4 of these other songs, there's the same kind of big reverby, cool guitar solo.
Yeah.
Then I didn't bother talking about it later because I just figured we'd go through it.
Right. Well, and what's interesting too is they like Terrence's guitar, pretty sure if I remember from the Gear Talk or video or whatever that I watched about it or whatever, like, you know, they use lower gauge strings, you know, because they tune in C sharp standard, I believe.
Okay.
And, you know, to have all the nice thick chugginess or whatever. But the gauges for the higher strings are closer to being standard gauges.
They do the bottom half, the lower gauges.
Yeah, I think so.
Fatter gauges.
And then, but he also has like some single coil pick. He has like single coil humbucker, I think is his setup on his.
Right, like a Strat would have or something like that.
Something like that. So for leads and shit, he flips it over to those single coils, which I don't think a lot of death metal or even metal players at all do.
Yeah, it depends on the tone you're going for, but I think most metal players, and probably, I don't know about death metal so much, but definitely the metal solo tone is the one that you want to like cut through, which is generally going to be your bridge pickup.
Okay.
And a lot of times it's a humbucker, depending on what you're playing.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, if you're switching up to a single coil, you're going to get like a rounder, fuller tone.
Right.
And he's using so much reverb on this that it kind of makes sense.
Well, that's another thing that's like crazy about those dudes too, is that like when they walk out like to fucking put their like pedal board down, it's like this, like they have like
it's like 2 things.
Yeah, they have like 3 or 4. They have like a tuner and they have like a reverb and like a fucking max on distortion or whatever the fuck it is they have, and then they have their amps. Like,
I guess that makes sense. Like, there's not a lot of tonal variations throughout most of these songs until you get to the solo.
Yeah.
And then it's a big reverb fest a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And it usually sounds really good. So,
and it's just crazy too. Again, like these guys are almost just like so committed to existing like in a world that doesn't exist anymore. And like like, oh yeah, man, well, where's your sound come from? Well, from my amp. Like, you know, like they're not like in my guitar and my hands and my fucking few pedals and my hand, you know, like there's not, you know, it's not the thing where everything is, you know, tone in a box and like the fractals and all that sort of shit and playing to click tracks and everyone's is on, you know, it's not that that's wrong, or it's not about shit being better or whatever. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's just part of what these guys are doing is the very like straight ahead sort of what you see is what you get, meat and potatoes sort of thing.
Right.
And that's just what they do.
Yep. And
they do it really well.
As I think we discovered you know, like again, like fucking so like Pierce from Within is not a click track near this fucking record, and it is so goddamn good. And I think that like after like digging into those Machine Head records and the Pantera records and realizing like how definitive those albums are for me, like of course I am drawn to, you know, like more drawn to the band that has a little more organic in their delivery, you know.
Yeah, that was definitely something I noticed a little bit later. It was very, very clear. So the only other note I had on that song, on Thrones of Blood, was at around 4:39, I think towards the end, there was like a really cool riff, a particularly cool riff, and I put funny drum hits, and I don't really remember what that was now.
What? Wait, what's your timestamp there?
4:39.
Okay, 4:39. Oh man, that's getting towards the end there.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. That's what it was.
Yeah. Oh, that little like kink.
Yeah.
That's cool as shit.
That's cool. Yep.
I think it's because there's certain things that like get left, you know, in the interpretation of that other drummers do of these songs. That one never does. That one's always stays. Kink.
Nice. That's like oh boy, what am I trying to think of? It's like in Loco, where he hits the fucking strings with the pick.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're not gonna play that song and not do that.
Yeah, you gotta do it.
Totally.
Yeah. All right.
That's all I had for that song.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a good one.
So
I think you were right there.
So Pierce from Within.
Mm-hmm.
So this fucking intro.
I said it had a sweet intro rhythm and riffs.
Yeah, that is. So,
yep.
That intro is difficult to get your head around. I will tell you that. So,
some cool stuff going on in there.
Yeah, it's amazing. So there's something really cool so in the verses, okay, like the drums are like, right, that but so what's interesting is the way that you don't really hear that cut through on the album version because Doug's doing like this drag, like where he's going like da 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 da, and he's just sort of like just sort of slamming the stick down and getting this like da 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 da.
Okay.
Right. But then whenever Mike Smith rejoined the band and he played it, like he, you know, because he's a fucking beast, you know, like he plays it that way, right?
Is he playing that? Is that a snare hit you're doing? Or
yeah. So it's like hat, right, snare, right. Okay, that's how they usually do it, like open handed, right? So like,
yeah,
you know, da 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 da, then both hands on the snare. Da, da, da.
Okay, I was picturing you going over to the tom, and I was like, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Sorry,
I got you.
Like right, but then the way that Eric does it, because he does all them doubles on the bass drums, right? He actually doubles that hit with the kick drum. So, you know, you get the da 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 da. So every da da, he's also doing it with the bass.
Right.
So it's like it took me a second to like I was listening to that live album, you know, the same one that live cut of Breathing Spawn was on. I was like, oh, you motherfucker.
That's cheating.
So but yeah, just these like little performance gestures that just elevate it just a little bit, you know.
I see what you mean.
And like to me, that's the definitive version of Pierce from Within. Like you can't play Pierce from Within without doubling those hits with the bass drum now.
Right.
To me.
Right.
So, God, this song is so masterful. Like just because you have like this crazy unique intro, these like really catchy verses, as catchy as you can have for death metal, with these fucking like cool ass blast beats, thrash beat, Then it repeats. We get a repeat. We get like actually 2 verses. Whoa. And then it goes into the 6/8 halftime, and like then you get some more blasts, and then you get like one of my favorite fucking things that happens on the entire fucking record. Let me see. You move on. Hold on. Wait. No, that's not. So right. So you get like this blast, which is amazing. Right, you know what I'm talking about.
I think I made a note about the same thing you're talking about here.
So you get this blast.
Yep.
So those stick clicks, man.
Yep.
Click.
I put stick clicks in a few different spots. It was very cool.
And that they just leave them in there, and it's because like the reason you have those is because they didn't record to a click track, and the drummer's just fucking going and just you need to keep okay, you know.
Yep.
And it just adds to this.
It adds some character to it. I like it.
Yeah, to this just organic.
Yeah.
You know, undeniable like organic vibe of those songs, and so
for sure. The other general note I had was like there's all sorts of tasty drumming shit going on. There's always something interesting happening.
Yeah.
All throughout the song.
Well, and there's also in this song, in Pierce from Within, there's something interesting. It's almost similar to how Thrones of Blood is structured, where there's a solo that's done over like the verse motif. Like they do the verse again towards the end, but it has a solo over it. Mm-hmm. Which is, but it's like it's the whole verse section. You know what I mean? It's not just like the one part, and then they finish with the intro again, a piece of the intro again. So it's just I don't know. It's just a cool way to put a song together. Mm-hmm. We already talked about Breed and Spawn.
Yeah, my initial listen was like I was digging the halftime.
Right, we'll debate.
They just went on for fucking ever. Which was why I enjoyed it so much hearing the live version and how he changed it up. I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, man.
And there was there's a cool riff in that song somewhere along the line. And this was one of the songs at about the 2:30 mark is what I marked. Mm-hmm. That gives you that really like tumbling down a hill effect where it's like they're just speeding up as they go.
Oh, sure.
It's really neatly done here. Yeah.
Yeah. And like again, like it's just so crazy that you have all of those things going on like one record. Because normally, like if you want to hear like you want to hear and you got that's 3 different bands, you know.
Sure.
But here they all here in like one song, you know. So yeah, that's a thing that. So I speculated. I don't know, tell me what you think. That this is an album that if we would have heard it, that we would have gotten into it. Maybe not you. Because you don't like the death metal vocals, but to me this feels like an album that if I would have heard it when I was in high school, that it would have been just as important as it is to me now. It just would have been doing that for longer.
Yeah, it would have influenced you.
Yeah, like to me it sits really close to Emperor's Anthems, to the Welcome at Dusk record. Like I feel like this would have been right there with it in a way.
Yeah, I wonder. I think it probably like there's so much of it that's like done so well.
Right.
That I feel like it probably would have influenced me somehow, especially if you had gotten into it.
Right.
So
and because we were so into doing odd time and doing things weird and making things angular and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to it's hard to imagine us not drawing inspiration from this and the way that they do it so effortlessly or so tastefully.
Yeah, because like everything feels like like you keep saying, like it feels natural. It feels like
Yeah.
it all flows very well.
Which is what we tried to go for, you know.
Yeah. Because like at that point in time, like I was listening to Dream Theater and shit like that, but not for that same reason.
Right.
Or I didn't take the same things from that I took from other stuff that I was listening to. So yeah, Breeding Spawn there. Infecting the Crypts.
Yep. I mean, I don't have a lot to say about the ones off of Effigy. Not because I don't think those songs are amazing. It's just, I think I just kind of already said it earlier when I was talking about what set them apart.
Sure.
When in 1991, I am still floored when I go back and listen to Effigy of the Forgotten, like of just the whole record. I mean, and all appears from within, but for different reasons. Like there is a rawness and intensity, but still a coherence, a tightness on Effigy that just doesn't exist on too many other records. I don't know. I've never heard a record that comes close to doing what this record does. So, yeah.
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, I didn't have too many notes about these couple of tracks. The mids on the guitars are like off the fucking charts on this. It doesn't sound great to my ear.
Yeah, sure.
But also, it just kind of sounds like what I expect death metal to sound like. So I can't. On the one hand, I don't knock it for that,
right?
Because like that's kind of what I have come to expect. But it's very MIDI. And then I pointed out, hey, they're like blast beats, but are they Suffo blasts? It turns out
only Suffo blasts.
Turns out they are. Yeah.
Only Suffo blasts on this record.
And then I put it at 337. He throws a snare. He starts doing snare hits.
Okay.
In addition to what he's doing normally, and I thought that sounded really cool.
337 of Infecting.
Yeah.
God, it's so fucking good. All of it. Oh yeah.
There. Yeah. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, man. There's so many fucking rad things. Like I could just push play and just like, so you hear that? You hear this cool thing? And like, yeah, it. And to me, like the poor, like, because this is the other thing too that's so hard to imagine is that there was like, there was like one place that you could go to get a death metal, like get a metal record made where they could hear the bucket bass drums, like this is
right.
This idea of, and so just to like, to think that they got through all that, or I mean like that you get down there, you're on the other side of the country, because these guys are from New York. They get all the way down to Florida to fucking record this record, and they're fucking kids, and this is what fucking comes out of them. It's so amazing. It's so fascinating. And
how old were they at the time? Like,
I mean,
late teens, like early 20s.
I don't know for sure
because they look super young. Obviously,
yeah. Let's see here. Come on, let's see how old is Terrence. Terrence Hobbs looks like he's a child.
Yeah.
In that,
because they look like maybe high school, maybe right after high school.
Yeah, I mean, he was like 21.
Yeah.
And so I think all of them, most of them went to high school together. So it's like they're all about 20.
Yeah. Fucking A, man.
And like that they're like artistically complete. Like you know what I mean? Like that they are this unique artistic voice at 20.
Yeah.
Like a defined, complete, boom, artistic vision. That is banana fucking sandwiches to me. That is so insane. And like, cause the only thing that like these songs suffer from is like poor recording quality, cause it didn't exist.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I mean, and like maybe, and I don't know why, because Human was recorded in the same studio. I don't know why it sounds better. They might have just had more time.
Yeah.
Because that was like Death's like 4th or 5th record, and this was Suffocation's 1st.
Or just like different producer.
No, it was all the same guy.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Engineer and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well.
So, but like at that point, you know, Chuck had been making records for 5 years. You know what I mean? So that had to be something, or 4 years, but
longer.
Yes, longer. So yeah, that it's a really special record with a lot of fucking charm and personality to it. So,
right on.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else.
Yeah, the only note I made about the Death song was I'm pretty into this.
So I bet you would like that record.
Yeah,
I bet you would like Death as a whole. You know,
I may check that out.
So, it's more dynamic. It's more interesting, like from a guitar standpoint. You know, it's more guitar player music, less intense. So, yeah. Anyway,
so did you have anything else?
I don't think I do. I think I said it all.
Okay. The only other thing I have to say is a bit of a summary after going through all of this. I think, and sort of after taking it all in and like thinking about what it is about it that I like, what it is about it that I don't like, or what about it that it just doesn't vibe with me.
Yeah.
I think what I realized is probably no surprise to you that I think I'm just too chill for this music. I think this is what I've come to. So what I said is like all the riffs are like demonstrably intense. The rhythmic changes are always interesting. There's always something cool going on.
Right, yeah.
And there are like so many like cool musical little nuggets all throughout the songs and all this stuff. But I just get tired after thinking about one song.
Right.
And I think I just don't want to be. That just ties into the other thing where it's like there's just no room for it to breathe. I just can't for that long, that hard.
Yeah.
With this music, so I think that's all it really comes down to is like I'm just not that intense of a person.
Right. It is.
Which should have been obvious to me in the first place.
Of course. Which it is like a fascinating thing, you know, to consider what, you know, like what I'm going to be really into and what is like not. They're like, I like things that does, but it's almost similar to I guess kind of the jazz stuff too, because jazz is intense in a different way, you know. I guess what we've learned is that Richard's intense. Likes intense things. It's secrets to no one.
So yeah, we could have said this in the first episode and known it.
End of. Yeah, like this didn't have to be, you know.
What have we been doing for the past year?
100 hours or whatever. Like this could have just been like a single little book, like not even a book, just a paragraph. Richard's intense. He likes intense shit. Robert, not so much.
What? Less so. Could have been a pamphlet, really.
Yeah.
Shit.
Well, cool.
But yeah, like I had fun going through this and thinking about it more closely that I had not really done before.
Yeah.
It was fun to just go dig into it.
Yeah. I hope it came out coherent and in some sort of organized way. We'll see. But yeah, I was like, I'm asking a lot of Robert this week. So
really putting him through the ringer. Hope he comes.
Appreciate that.
Good stuff, man.
All right.
How long was that?
3.5.